Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the best entitled people stories we've read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled people you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that for every thumbs up this video gets, she won't try to get anyone fired for an entire week. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen waitress threw away my food when I wasn't looking, so I left her no tip. My girlfriend and I recently went out for dinner. It took them a while to seat us as they were short-staffed. We ordered an appetizer to split as well as a meal each. I noticed that they were really trying to rush us along, bringing out our meals at the same time as the appetizer. The server kept grabbing things off the table, asking, "All finished with this?" and beginning to walk away with it in her hand before I stopped her and told her that we weren't finished. After the third time, first the bread, then my half-filled beer, and then the appetizer, I had enough. "I understand you have a job to do. Please do not touch anything in front of me until it's cleared and off to the side. Stop interrupting our meal. Please go away," I said very sternly. A friend of mine came in and was seated at a table nearby. I turned around to greet him and engaged in chit-chat for about 2 minutes. When I turned around, my meal, which I had barely touched, was gone. My girlfriend hadn't even noticed it gone missing. I called the waitress over, who handed me the check and asked, "Will there be anything else?" I told her my meal had disappeared. She blankly replied, "Oh, I thought you were done." I said, "No, I'm still eating. Go get my dinner and bring it back here." She replied, It got thrown out. Because you looked like you were done, so yeah." I told her to go get me her manager. She responded that he didn't have time to see me. I told her that he needed to make time because I was about to make a scene in 4 seconds. She left and a minute later came back and said that he was too busy. I told her to reprint the check without my meal on it. She refused, saying I had ordered it, I had to pay for it, and walked away. I let my girlfriend finish her meal, took the check, put a line through the cost of my meal, pulled cash out of my wallet to cover the appetizer, drinks, and my girlfriend's meal, wrote, "No tip. Your server was rude, incompetent, and threw out my dinner," and handed it to the cashier as one bundle as I walked out. My girlfriend thinks I went a bit overboard and that I should have at least tipped for the other employees involved. My mother, a retired waitress, is furious that I took it upon myself to alter a check and leave without paying for food I ordered. She thinks it was an honest mistake and I need to be more understanding. I'm usually on the side of the servers, but this seems a bit much. Who takes someone's food without even asking if they want to box it up, especially if there was a lot left over? Not the jerk. Not the jerk. Agree that I am almost always on the side of the server, 99.9% of the time. I'm a firm believer that we all have bad days at work and make mistakes, and we all still get paid for those days, and servers should too. But not in this case. I also don't understand why the server would take the food without asking to box it up, or clearly asking if you're done. But even if this was the case, once the server realized she had thrown away the food that the person still planned on eating, a replacement should have been offered. And yes, she might have gotten in trouble for that, but that's a consequence of her own mistakes. Not the jerk. What's the manager there for then? Sounds like you made it very clear not to remove plates. Waitstaff doing that afterwards is deliberate. Handing you the bill and saying, "Will there be anything else?" is kind of hostile too. Sounds like she had an issue with you from the get-go. Weird way to treat a customer. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the waitress? Please let us know. I'd be calling corporate if I were you. I've got a lot of experience doing that sort of thing. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that if he wants me to dress a certain way, he needs to pay for my clothes and hair and nails and time? I'm a woman in a career field which really doesn't care about appearances. My boyfriend is in a job where looks matter more, investment banking. He wears suits and has to present himself as more wealthy to look good at work. My boyfriend wanted me to come to some work events, dinners, or happy hours. But he said that it was something we'd need to dress up for. I offered to wear some nice dresses I have, and he said that it was more than that. His coworkers' wives and girlfriends wore designer and had professionally done hair and nails, and that it really was just what was needed to succeed in his workplace, so he considered it a professional expense. I said that made sense for himself, but I'm not responsible for his professional expenses. He agreed to pay for the clothes and salon appointments, and I also asked him to compensate me for my time getting presentable for those events. Additionally, if he wanted me to act a certain way during these events, which was different than my usual behavior at a social event, it should be treated like work. I'd expect to be paid for my time. He thought that was unfair, saying that it was weird to charge my boyfriend to attend an event with him. I said that if I'm not attending as myself, but instead presenting an image for business development purposes, that's not socializing, that's labor. He agreed to that in the end, and we came up with a list of things I'd need to attend an event with him. Designer dress, designer heels, jewelry, hair done, nails done, makeup done, handbag. He picked out the dress, heels, and bag, and he asked me to find salons to have my hair, nails, and makeup done. When I told him how much the cosmetics appointments and the time I spent on them cost, he was upset it was $700. And adding that to the clothes he bought and the time we'd be at the event, it was coming close to almost $2,000. We went and I played the part. It was uneventful. Nobody paid me much attention. Felt like a bit of a waste, but whatevs. But afterwards, when I mentioned that I wanted to borrow his card to make an appointment to get the nails removed, since I needed them filed down by a professional before work, he got frustrated with me, saying that I was milking him for money and I was only with him for money. I told him that I make the same as he does. He got upset and said that most girls know how to dress themselves and do their own makeup nice, and I got so frustrated I said sarcastically, "Go date most girls then. I'm sure most girls would love being treated like a human dress-up doll." He got really mad about that, and I feel frustrated too. Like he expects me to do crap unpaid for his work. Like I would never ask him to do crap for my job, let alone do my job unpaid. Am I the jerk for wanting to be paid if my labor was going towards my boyfriend's career? Edit, because there are a lot of questions about why I thought it was justified to ask for compensation for my time. 1. The hair and makeup and nails and tailoring appointments took about 10 hours. I had to take a full day off work, and since I am a consultant who bills hourly, I was losing a day's wages to perform tasks my boyfriend wanted to benefit his career. If I ever asked my boyfriend to lose wages at his job to perform tasks for my job, I'd think it would be fair to pay him for his work too. 2. I'm always happy to attend social events and be polite, friendly, and talk to people and get to know them, for free. But this wasn't what he was asking of me. He wanted me to act, to not speak of my actual hobbies or career, and to give the impression that I am a stay-at-home partner, to claim to ski. I have no idea how to ski. To only order classy drinks and none of the drinks I actually drink. That doesn't strike me as going to an event as a partner. That strikes me as going to an event as an actress or a performer, which is a whole job. Edit 2. I also find it very strange how feminine labor is undervalued. He said that he needed me to do something for him to support his career because his bosses expected of me. If this was any other kind of work, it would be absurd to do it unpaid. Like if he said, "Hey, my boss needs a truck loaded," and everyone knows that's what the girlfriends do. "Can you come by and load the truck? Also, you'll need to bring your own forklift." Absurd. If he asked me, "Hey, my boss heard you're an engineering consultant and wants you to evaluate this software architecture, and he expects it for free because that's what girlfriends are for," that's absurd. I'd be sending my rates. So why is it acceptable to say, "Hey, my workplace expects me to bring a woman to play a very specific role, and you will need to do 10 hours of preparation tasks for free for the benefit of my career, and you should cover the cost of parts and labor"? I wish that was considered equally absurd, but it's almost like women's work in hospitality is an undervalued form of labor. Info. What keeps you together? I just read 2 people who are completely incompatible. Exactly. Not the jerk. He needs to find himself a living doll or robot or something because he clearly needs one in order to advance at work. Or just someone who wants to live like that. I'm sure there are plenty of people who would. He just hasn't chosen to be with a woman who does enjoy those things. Yeah, I love dressing up and getting my hair and nails done. I work in an office that allows jeans, and yet I wear almost exclusively dresses. Dating a guy like this would be wonderful for me, and I'd have a ton of fun, even if the events themselves were boring just because I got to dress up. But not everyone is like that. Okay, but it's not about the dressing up, which I also enjoy and don't get the opportunity to do a lot, really. It's about the asking her to lie about her hobbies, keep her demeanor more docile, and pretend she doesn't work. I'd have a hard time with that aspect. OP. He's not like this outside of work. He honestly puts on a whole different personality when he has to go to work, which up until now I really wasn't exposed to because we kept our professional lives separate. Thing is, he seems happy to have a work persona that is entirely different than his real personality. I'm not. My coworkers get the same me as my friends, minus a bit of the excessive language and gossip. My coworkers know I'm basically a teenage dirtbag in a 28-year-old woman's body, and I still get respect because I'm kind and competent. And I like working in an environment where I can show up with pink hair that I dyed in the bathroom the night before, and all people will say is, "Cool hair. I love how you always have something new and unique." I wasn't aware of how restrictive his company's workplace culture was, and how he has a whole different persona he has to put on and take off every day. Not the jerk. You're my hero for putting an appropriately high value on your time. Yeah, I'm with her 100%. In addition, I find it kind of messed up that the boyfriend got all upset and said she's using him for money. Dude, she gave you the option of herself, dressed up in a nice outfit she already owns. He's the one who insisted on all the expensive extra crap. This was your idea, homie. Not the jerk, and I like your style, OP. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. Sometimes our careers and lives make us incompatible with others. I know I wouldn't want to have to pretend to be someone I'm not, but I also sure as heck wouldn't be paying Reddit boy to go to a party with me. Who would even invite you to a party, Karen? You know you don't have any friends. Stop it, Reddit boy. Just stop it. I gave away my son's new bike after the prank he pulled on a girl he was friends with. So recently I found out my son Jacob, who's 15, pulled an incredibly cruel prank on one of the girls I'll call Ashley that's in his friend group. I know this girl. She's been to our house and even attended Jacob's birthday party a month ago. She seemed incredibly sweet, if not a bit shy. So when my oldest son, Mark, who's 17, came to me and told me that Jacob had asked Ashley out on a date as a prank, I was stunned. I, of course, asked how he could know this, hoping as any mother would that it wasn't true. But Mark showed me the family tablet we all use, but mostly my sons do, and it seems Jacob forgot to log out of his chatting app, Discord. I read the long series of messages between Jacob and his friends as they mocked Ashley all through this heartless prank. I was speechless, and that's not even getting into how he was talking, like he was some gangsta, and not even a 15-year-old living in a gated community. At first, I couldn't figure out what to do or how to proceed. I'll admit that I never once imagined either of my boys would be the type of person to do something like this, but there was no way in heck I was letting this go. So after a day of thought, I decided what was going to happen. First things first, he was grounded. For how long, I'm not sure. Secondly, I'd gotten Jacob a bike for his birthday, but it hadn't arrived until the day previous, and I'd planned to give it to him when my parents came to visit since they'd been unable to make his party. But instead of that, I showed him I knew about the prank, and then told him he was grounded. Then I made him carry the new bike out of my bedroom closet and to the car before driving it to Ashley's house, him crying the whole way. I'd called her parents earlier and explained everything, and so once we got there, I had him cart it to their front porch and ring the doorbell. Then in front of me, Ashley, her parents, and God, I had him give a sincere apology and gift her the bike. Even I apologized to her, saying I didn't raise my boys this way and what he did was unforgivable. I also called the parents of the other boys who were a part of this little stunt, and they all seemed rightfully horrified by their son's involvement. I felt I'd handled this all as best I could, and my friends agreed. Though once my parents found out that I'd made Jacob give his birthday gift away, they said that I did go too far. I still feel like what I did was right, but having my parents more or less dogpile on me like this actually made me wonder if how I handled it was too extreme. Am I the jerk here? Not the jerk. You did the right thing. If there hadn't been any consequences that hit where it hurt, he may not have learned how unacceptable that behavior is. That cruelty is sadly common in kids around that age, but this is the absolute right step towards him becoming a good man. OP. I'm sad to say I know how cruel boys can be. Not personally, but back when I was in high school, I witnessed something similar to this happen to the weird girl, and it ended very poorly for her. As horrible as it is, I would tell that story to him. He needs to know that this is more than silly fun and can scar someone for life or worse. Not the jerk, you did good. Yes, a lot of teenagers are just plain dumb sometimes. I bet he didn't even think how this would feel if it were done to him. As a female that had this prank pulled on them in high school, I want to say thank you for standing up and for doing what's right. When it was done to me, it took a huge toll on me, and I didn't trust guys for a long time when I was asked out of fear that it was another prank. I hate to say this, But this most likely wasn't a one-off situation, and you might want to look into how your son treats other kids in school as well. I don't want to say he's bullying on other kids, but if he has no issue pulling something like this with his friends, what else is he doing? Not the jerk. I would have done the same thing. What he did wasn't okay. That can damage someone's self-confidence. He can handle losing a gift. He should feel awful for what he's done. Your parents are just grandparents thinking. They aren't seeing the big picture. If he keeps going down that path, he will end up with a bad group of kids. Punish him however you want. Boys need to be raised to respect women and not to tear them down. Not the jerk. I still remember 10 plus years later when I was in middle school and one kid told me his friend loved me, and seeing how angry his friend got afterwards because liking me was such a gross thing. You 100% did the right thing. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her son? Please let us know. Trust me, OP. If your son uses Discord, this probably isn't even scratching the surface of the things he's done. Am I the jerk for not doing anything after discovering that my wife deleted my daughter's novel? I've been married to my wife, Hannah, who's 36, for 2 years. She and my daughter, Morgan, who's 16, don't have a daughter-mother relationship. To be completely transparent here, they both fight often and just don't get along. Morgan used to spend most of her time at her mom's, but now is staying with us for school. I remember Hannah telling me about a novel Morgan has been writing on her laptop. She admitted to sneaking and looking at it without Morgan's knowledge, but she praised her writing style and storytelling, so I thought that was a positive thing. Yesterday, I got back home and found Morgan and her mom yelling at Hannah. I asked what was happening, and Morgan told me that Hannah deleted her novel. Hannah said that Morgan created a character in the novel using her description and name and making her the villain. Not only that, but she wrote bad words about her. Morgan argued that it was just a character and Hannah had no business snooping on her laptop to begin with. Hannah broke down crying after my ex-wife threatened her. I just watched the three of them fight and did nothing, nor said a single word. I stepped out for a minute to get fresh air, and moments later, Hannah unloaded on me about how I should have defended her in the argument instead of acting so cowardly. Morgan and her mom also said that I should have done something when Hannah decided to snoop and then delete Morgan's months of work. It just became too much with the three of them berating me and yelling in my face. Morgan went home with her mom and she was crying and refused to speak to me, and Hannah checked into a hotel, also refusing to speak to me. The texts from both sides kept coming in, both telling me I should have done something and should have taken their side in the argument. I just had to stay out of this one. I was on my feet the entire work morning. Both mental and physical health are down the drain, and I'm tired of them fighting all the time, then blaming me for my actions or lack of. Both are expecting me to get involved and do something to fix this, but I haven't done anything yet. Am I the jerk for not getting involved? You're the jerk. Hannah should pay for the recovery services to get the novel back. This will run $1,500 to $3,000 and won't guarantee that it is successful. There is no question who the jerk is here, and it's both you and Hannah. The laptop should be powered off and not used until it is sent in for recovery to give it the best chance of succeeding. Also, OP, you should have shut Hannah down the moment she admitted to snooping through Morgan's things. You should have told her to stop and told Morgan to add or change her password. You and Hannah are huge jerks. I see the next novel having two villains, one nasty snooping one and one cowardly one. He knew that his wife was snooping through his daughter's belongings, yet he did nothing. He knew his wife and daughter have hated each other for years, yet he talks about them fighting constantly as though it's natural. He knows he is both a father and a husband, yet he's been sitting on the side, stuck in neutral for some time. OP, no matter your mental state, you don't get to check out from being a parent. Your daughter didn't get a choice in who her parents would be, but it was your choice to bring her into this world. You're her father, her defender and protector. Yes, she's a young woman now, but inside there's still a child that wants her father to make her feel safe and loved. When you married Hannah, it became your responsibility to watch over her relationship with your daughter and to make sure your daughter was never mistreated. When your wife said she went through your daughter's laptop, that was your window to shut down a future blowout. You did nothing, and in choosing to do that, you failed your daughter. That was your moment to be her protector, but you chose to lay down your sword and shield, leaving her vulnerable to the wolf in sheep's clothing. Your refusal to be a better husband and father helped create this massively dysfunctional situation, and you're still sitting on the sidelines. Do you really think there won't be even more consequences this time? Your job is to step up and try to find a path through this. Time to get out of neutral. Get into gear and get moving now. Take away my company car? I'll just fly everywhere. First, this isn't the company I work for, but it's a company that services the same customers, and I interact quite often with their sales team. For a little backstory, this job is a sales job where you represent a manufacturer and travel around a territory calling on customers that sell your products. The territory is generally at least 2 states and averages 30,000 miles on the road per year, if not more. The company in question was recently acquired by a new ownership group that has a reputation for buying stagnant businesses, trimming down every possible expense they think is excessive, and selling it once it looks profitable, even though the company is barely functioning because of all the cuts. After the acquisition, the new ownership group decided that the sales reps' company cars were one of these excessive expenses. They were told to buy their own cars and they'd be given a monthly allowance to pay for the vehicle. There's several problems. They drove at least 30,000 miles a year, so no matter what kind of car they bought, the car would depreciate in value very quickly, and they would likely need to trade it in a few years before it was paid off. Also, if they wanted to use exactly what their allowance would allow for a car, they'd likely be buying a 10 to 15-year-old car, and it still wouldn't cover fuel and insurance. The sales reps were used to getting a new car every 2 to 3 years. It's important in this line of work to have a presentable car because it's often used to take our customers around the market. For example, my company has a very strict policy about keeping the vehicles clean and will pay to repair any cracks in the windshield or dents in the car immediately because we're a reflection of the company when meeting with our customers. It's just all around a situation where they're getting done over and would be spending their own money on something their old company used to cover, and it's essential to their job. Here's where the malicious compliance comes in. This new company didn't have a policy on flights. There was no rule on how far the destination needed to be before they were allowed to book a flight. Also, they were allowed to rent a car if they flew to a destination. Finally, their company card approval system didn't have very good checks and balances because of the acquisition. Basically, all expenses were sent to an understaffed department. Some were laid off during the acquisition, so they'd approve all expenses as long as a receipt was provided. So now the sales reps are buying ridiculously expensive, super regional flights and just renting a car at the airport. One of the reps I sometimes bump into had just flown from Kansas City, Missouri to Wichita, Kansas, which is 2.5 to 3 hours away on the interstate. He then rented a car and drove back to Kansas City to make sales calls for 2 weeks. He ended up back in Wichita, making sales calls the whole way, and flew back to Kansas City to start the weekend. He'd been doing this every week for months. So was the rest of their sales force. He told me that his average daily travel expense was $50 more than the monthly allowance they gave him to buy a car. He told me that his average daily travel expense was $50 more than the monthly allowance they gave them to buy a car. Apparently, the new company just caught on towards the end of the year, and their year-end travel expenses for them are massive. Since the discovery, there's been multiple meetings, virtual town halls, and a ton of emails with new policies and procedures for taking flights and submitting expenses. The biggest win for them, though, is that at the beginning of this year, they all got company cars again. Sure, I can wait. I've been working as a delivery driver for a small parts company in the RV industry. Think courier van small parts. I have a lot of stops in a day, 20 to 30, which happens when you live in the RV capital of the world. So one day I'm headed to one of my favorite plants with a hot order of screws, something they need badly. Let's call it Plant 107. I like it because the receiver there is a super chill guy that takes care of me and makes sure I'm not waiting in line forever like other places. This particular day, he has been given orders by his boss, who plays the part of the antagonist in this story. So I pull up to the plant and see across the way that he is busy and will be a while, so I do what I normally do and just wait it out. Around 15 to 20 minutes go by and he's still working and I'm still sitting. In times past when this has happened, I can just hand load everything onto a cart and walk into the office for someone to sign paperwork, and I'll take the product to the correct location. This is where I encounter the jerk, the boss. The exchange went as follows. Me: how's it going? Was hoping someone could sign for these so I can drop them for you. I know it's a hot order. Boss: who are you with? Me: insert company name here. Boss dismissively: why are you in such a hurry? Me: not in a hurry, but I know you need these immediately, and the receiver is busy. I've been out there for about 15 minutes or so. Boss more sternly: do you need me to go out and buy you a new watch? You've only been here 5 minutes, and I know because I pulled in around you. Me. Yes, you pulled around me about 10 minutes after I got here. Boss, even more sternly. Well, I'm the one in charge here, and I told the receiver to work on something else, so you're going to have to wait. Your package is not a top priority for us, so go back to your truck. Me, choking back the urge to go off on this lady. Sure, I can wait. So I go back out to the truck and pull forward ever so slightly so my side door is even with her window. Open it up and sit there staring at her. Another 20 minutes go by, and my boss calls asking why this place hasn't received their screws yet. Tell him what happened, and he says, "Stay there, I'll take care of it." Another 10 minutes go by, and suddenly she comes bursting out of the office screaming for the receiver on the radio, saying he shouldn't have left me waiting so long and that she is going to write him up for what happened. And then, in a what on earth move, she just gets in her car and leaves. I look at the receiver and make sure he knows that's BS, and I will vouch for him. We make fun of her for a minute and then split ways, in a transaction that should have taken 2 to 3 minutes tops. Several days go by, and I find out an owner of the company is my boss's golf buddy, and he called him directly. Well, crap rolls downhill, and she got in huge trouble. They demoted her, cut her pay, and suspended her for 2 weeks. I still deliver there often. Every time she sees me, I give her a big smile and a wave, and all she does is drop her head. Sure, I can wait. The camera was stolen? Okay, I'll file a police report. I do marketing for a general contractor in the US. Part of my job requires me to organize the installation of cameras on the job site, mainly for marketing purposes like time lapses and stuff like that. My boss lives near the site that I was setting up the cameras for and offered to drop off the camera on his way into work the next day. The next day, he texts me to confirm where he dropped it off and also notified the site superintendent, boss of the site. The super would take care of the actual installation, which involved drilling it into a post and plugging it in. Pretty simple stuff. Also important to the story, this super was retired a year ago and came back to work for us for unknown reasons, so you could say he is a little checked out of working at this point in his life. Fast forward to the day after my boss dropped it off. I called the super to confirm that he had installed it. He tells me that he never saw the camera on the site, and I told him to check where my boss said he dropped it off, which was under a trailer and covered by an extra sign. He still claims it is nowhere to be found, sent a picture of where my boss left it, and then suggests that it may have been stolen. I go to my boss and explain the situation, and we both agree that something doesn't seem quite right. We call him up to see what he says, and he's still sticking to his story that it was stolen, but sounds a little hesitant over the phone. My boss dropped it off around 7:30 a.m., and the super was on the job site around 8 a.m. Not exactly prime hours for theft and a very small window of when the site was unsupervised. Standard procedure for when something is stolen from the job site is to file a police report and all that jazz. I also called the camera provider to see if there was any way to GPS track the camera. Unfortunately, there was not, but the super doesn't need to know that. Me and my boss agree to craft up some beautiful BS in an email to see if anything happens. We said that we will follow standard procedure and file a police report for the camera. I also mentioned that I will be calling the camera provider to have them track the camera so we can get it back. The next morning, he calls me back and says that he found the camera in the woods on the edge of the job site and blamed one of the subcontractors for moving it. He probably lost it when he read the words GPS tracking and covered his tracks. I think he was either trying to sell the camera or just really didn't want to install it. Since then, the camera has been installed after bugging the same super for about a month. Nothing ever came of the suspected theft due to lack of evidence, and the super still works here. Classmate is mad I'm forcing her to eat ethnic food. Go eat a loaf of bread. This happened about a year ago now when I was in high school. My calculus class was very chill. About 20 kids who were all friendly with each other, a laid-back but enthusiastic teacher, and a light enough workload that we could afford to goof off in class but still learn and do well. At some point in the year, I got really into cooking. It's my stress reliever. My family couldn't possibly eat the amount of food I made, so I started bringing it into school and hosting Friday parties in my calc class, with my teacher's approval, of course. Now, I'm Vietnamese and live in a predominantly white town. This is only important because it's meant that most kids from my town only ate American or European foods and weren't used to eating other ethnic foods. Last year, around Lunar New Year, I wanted to bring in some Vietnamese foods to celebrate. It's a very important time of year for my family. I ended up making a bunch of bon de laine, a steamed layer cake, and a traditional Vietnamese dessert. Some of my friends from class found out I was going to bring in a traditional dish and brought in their own traditional dishes from their own cultures, whether they celebrated Lunar New Year or not. We had different Indian, Korean, Filipino, and Spanish desserts. It was great, and I was really excited that my friends wanted to celebrate with me. Apparently, there was an issue for one girl in my class. I would say bon de laine is an acquired taste, so when not a lot of people ate it, I wasn't offended. I knew not everybody would like it. There was a lot of other food anyways. During our lunch period, one of my friends, who wasn't in our class but knew I brought food in, overheard a girl from my class complaining about the food while on the lunch line. Apparently, she was saying really negative things about how I forced everyone to eat weird Chinese foods. Later that day, I texted her just saying I heard she didn't like the food and wanted to know why. I don't really care when people don't like the food. I make it for myself and bring it in when I have extra anyways. But her calling it weird Chinese food when she knows I'm Vietnamese didn't sit right with me. Well, she texted back that it was rude of me to bring in weird ethnic foods that nobody could have liked except for me, and said I should have known better since most of the class was white. I told her that I bring in food to share because I feel like it and that I don't have an obligation to cater to her tastes. If she has an issue with it, she literally does not have to eat it, and other people can bring in food too. So if she wanted to, she could bring in something more to her tastes. After that, she just told me that I shouldn't bring in ethnic and foreign foods and stick with American foods because we're in America. Excuse me? Like, how much you want to bet if I brought in jambalaya, which originated in Louisiana, she would call it a weird foreign food? Fine. She only wants to eat American foods, then she can eat American foods. The next week, I brought in a bunch of oliebollen, a Dutch donut, and started passing them out at the beginning of class. When I got to her desk, I pulled out a loaf of Wonder Bread and plopped it on her desk, saying, "Sorry, but these are Dutch, too ethnic. Here you go, all American cuisine." Later, she texted asking what the heck my problem was, so I told her that almost every single food I brought in this year was ethnic, and that it ticked me off that she had only had an issue when it wasn't European. She's entitled to not liking Asian foods, but if you're going to complain about it being ethnic, then you better have that same attitude when the ethnic food is white. And especially, don't call another person's culture weird. She didn't complain about the food again. My ex's daughter keeps destroying my relationships on purpose. I, 35 female, used to date a guy we'll call Jacob, 37 male. We dated for 9 months before we mutually agreed to break up. Jacob has a 16-year-old daughter we'll call Emma. Emma's mom is not in her life, and apparently all previous exes treated her horribly. Emma calls me mom. I never had an issue with it even after the breakup, since I knew she didn't really have one and I cared for her. Emma often comes to visit me and stays over. About 2 months ago, I went on a date. Emma found out, but acted really excited for me and even insisted on helping me pick out a dress. We had a blast and even went for ice cream after. The date went well, and I thought things were going good. However, about 1 week later, I received a text from my date calling me a horrible person and telling me to never talk to him again. This happened for the next 3 dates I went on, and at this point, I knew something was up. On the 4th date, the same thing happened as the previous 3 dates. However, this time I decided to ask for an explanation. He then sent me screenshots of messages he had received from a random number, claiming that I had a family and that I was cheating. I was shocked to see that the number which sent the messages was Emma's. Emma came over later that day, and I showed her the screenshots and asked if she sent this to all my previous dates. She admitted to sending this message to all my dates and apologized, saying that she thought if I got in a relationship, she would lose me. I felt bad and told her that she would never lose me and I would always be there for her. We had a heart-to-heart and then got sushi, and I thought this was the end of it. I went on another date last week. I had told my date about Emma and everything that had happened with her. He thought it was funny and had no problem with her being in my life still. Well, a day later, he sent me a message, and what do you know? Emma had messaged him the exact same messages she sent to everyone else. I called Emma and asked why she did this again when we had already talked about it, and told her that if she doesn't stop, she will not be able to come over to my house for a while, which is something I don't want to do. She got mad and started losing it on me before saying that I should get back with her father because we didn't end on bad terms before hanging up on me. I called her father and explained the situation. I told him that I think we need to get her a therapist, as I think our breakup affected her more than we thought. I then told him that until the situation was resolved and she apologized, she shouldn't come over to my house for a while. I would still talk to her, just not see her until she starts therapy. Well, her father was furious. He called me everything in the book and said that while she was in the wrong and should see a therapist, I was a jerk for essentially cutting her out of my life because of it. I explained that it was only temporarily until the situation was resolved, however, he hung up. It's been a day and I feel really bad, as I'm the only healthy mother figure she's ever had. However, I don't think I'm in the wrong, as it's only until she starts therapy. So, am I the jerk? Edit. People are asking me how she got those numbers. I used to always give her my phone, even after the incidents, because I never had any reason to doubt her, and I thought the issue was resolved, so she most likely got it from there. I also have every intention of still talking to her, just not seeing her until she starts therapy. Edit 2. Someone suggested that maybe the reason previous exes didn't like her is because she did something like this, so I asked some mutual friends, and apparently she has a habit of getting attached to women very quickly and calling them mom. Apparently, it made all the exes uncomfortable, and a lot of them broke up with Jacob because of it. Edit 3. A couple people on here suggested that she might have installed an app on my phone to see what I was doing, and to my horror, after looking through my phone, I found an app called Guardian Parental Control, and this app lets you read text messages. I'm honestly in complete shock and don't know what to do. I was just weirded out by her behavior at first, but now I'm actually scared. For all I know, she watched me type all of this. I'm looking into getting a new phone now. However, any advice would be greatly appreciated. Edit 4. I told Emma's dad about the app and he laughed in my face. Turns out he knew about the app and told her to install it back when we first started dating so they could see if I was cheating on him. Apparently, he didn't install it on his phone because he knew I might check his phone at some point, so he told her to install it on hers. I asked him why he didn't tell me about it, or at least delete it after the breakup, and he said that he told Emma to, but she wanted to keep it, and apparently he saw no harm in her having access to my phone. Edit 5. I've decided to cut contact with them, at least until she starts getting help. However, I honestly don't know if I will ever talk to them again, even if she does get help. I'm currently changing all my passwords, as well as looking through all my devices for any other spying apps, and I'm going to factory reset all of them after. I had previously been looking into a new house. However, after everything that I just discovered today, I'm definitely going to be moving and hopefully somewhere far. I told my friends about this and they are looking out for me. I'm also staying with a friend until I can get a new place. I will keep you guys updated, and thanks for all your advice. Edit 6. I didn't think I would be making another edit for a while. However, while I was going through my laptop, I noticed Emma's Google account was logged in. This didn't surprise me, as I knew she had done this. I was about to log it out. However, my friend said he had a bad feeling about it, told me to check her Google Drive. In her Google Drive, I found a folder with my name on it. After everything I found out, I didn't want to know what was in there, but my friend opened it anyway. It had a bunch of bad pictures of me. Thankfully, they were all pictures I had sent to her dad back when we were dating. However, the fact that she has a whole folder dedicated to those photos definitely creeps me out. I've decided to just buy all new devices at this point, as I don't think I can handle finding anything else, and I just don't trust any of my devices anymore. Hopefully this is the last update for a while. However, I will keep you all updated. Edit 7. Hopefully my last edit. I deleted all of the photos off the folder and the folder itself. I did, however, take screenshots and a screen recording for evidence. I told a friend who is a police officer about this and sent them all the evidence. They are currently helping me and are trying to get me some form of police protection. In the meantime, they are staying with me. Hopefully this all ends soon and I can just move on with my life. Thank you for all of your advice and for making me realize how unhealthy the relationship really was. I probably never would have found out about the spying app or the folder if it wasn't for all of you. Thank you all for your support, and hopefully the next time I have an update, it will be good news. Not the jerk. She does need therapy and this is not healthy. If you don't put some boundaries, she's going to keep doing this over and over. This was very odd to me, to be honest. You only dated 9 months and she started calling you mom? That seems like way too fast for someone who was just dating less than a year and did not even live in the same house. It would be much more understandable if she was around ages 1 through 4 and didn't know better, but a teenager attaching themselves to an adult even after a few months is really bizarre. It never sounded like it was a healthy relationship to start with. Not the jerk. You need to cut contact completely though. This is not normal behavior on her or her father's part. You dated 9 months, not 9 years. While I feel for Emma needing a motherly figure, that isn't and shouldn't be you, especially since you were with her father for such a short amount of time. The fact he thinks you're wrong and called you all the names is also the problem. I get that you care for Emma, but this isn't a "we need to" situation, it's a "he needs to," because Emma isn't getting the message and your ex is enabling her. Everyone sucks here, mostly Jacob and Emma. I suspect that you're a bit of a kind soul that has been taken advantage of here, but you need to wake up and realize it or it will get worse. 1. OP, please step back and evaluate the situation with Emma. A 16-year-old who calls a girlfriend mom after 9 months is concerning. But when you should have made a clean break when you broke up, this was not a long-term situation, and you do not own the responsibility of giving her a stable female figure in her life. 2. Emma needs serious help. She's clearly got some abandonment issues here, but likely also has other issues as well. These are not your doing, nor your responsibility. They have to do with her mother abandoning her, and likely her father treating every relationship as her newfound mother. But you cannot fix this at all. 3. Jacob needs to be a parent. If he doesn't want people to cut his daughter out of her life, then he needs to be a parent and get her behavior under control. I would suspect if he was being honest, this is not the first crazy-making situation he's gotten mixed up with between his ex and his daughter. This would be such a good movie. Lifetime for the win. My wife went to her gender reveal appointment without me. My wife and I are expecting our first baby together. We made an appointment to find out the gender of the baby. To me, this is very important. I had hopes for a boy. Unfortunately, the day of the doctor's appointment, I had to attend my friend's birthday that I remembered last minute. I asked my wife if we could cancel the appointment and go another day, but she looked shocked that I was even considering canceling the appointment and going to my friend's birthday. I said I had no choice. She said canceling the doctor's appointment was off the table because these appointments are restricted to a specific time and date, and we can't miss it, so she'll go alone. I told her no, because that would be selfish of her. And besides, this will ruin the news of finding out if the baby is a boy or a girl. She cut the discussion and told me to go to the birthday party. I then later found out that she didn't cancel the doctor's appointment and went with her mom. I came home seething and blew up at her. I started arguing with her about going behind my back and doing this without me. She said it wasn't her fault that I prioritized a party over my kid. I told her I didn't prioritize anything. She literally could have canceled and we would have went another day. But clearly, she was trying to steer the fight to a direction where I look like the neglectful and irresponsible one. We fought some, and then she said that I'm probably angry with her because it's a girl. But I responded that she was wrong. She went outside the room, claiming I was stressing her out. Now acts like I owe her an apology on top of everything else. But I feel upset and like I was deceived by her. Am I the jerk? Info. First off, goodness. I came here thinking I was somewhat justified in my frustration, but I was wrong it seems. Although, I just want to point out that I did not just go to the party without telling my wife and having a discussion with her first. Also, the friend lives 2 hours away, so I had to leave at 2 and the appointment was at 4. I did not know she went, and I would have appreciated if at least she was upfront with me about what she did. She could have said she was going anyway, but instead told me to go to the party and had me thinking she was going to cancel and reschedule. Edit. For those who are speculating on the type of parent I am/will be, you really don't know enough to make those assumptions, so I'd appreciate it if you just focus on the conflict I just presented. You asked your wife to reschedule the gender reveal appointment because you wanted to go to a birthday party. Your wife gives a valid reason for not rescheduling, and you called her selfish because you wanted to go to a birthday party? You told your wife she couldn't go to the appointment without you because you wanted to go to a birthday party. How dense do you have to be to not realize the moment you asked her to reschedule the appointment, you were prioritizing the party over the appointment? I feel bad for your wife. You're the jerk. Makes you wonder how old he is that he can't miss someone's birthday party. Anyone over the age of 16 would understand if you gave them a quick call and explained the situation about why you won't be able to make it. Also, these scans are not just gender reveal scans, they are to check the health of the baby and mama. You literally put your wife and daughter in danger for a party. Great start to parenthood. In case it isn't clear, massive you're the jerk. And they only take like an hour max and are done during business hours. Who has a birthday party that's only an hour long during regular business hours? Even if the appointment was last of the day on a Friday, it would have been over in time for OP to go to the party and just be a little late. Huge holes in this story. You're the jerk. Honestly, the more I think about this, the angrier I get. He wanted to cancel a specialized appointment hours before it's scheduled? The doctors and nurses have enough to deal with without OP acting like he's canceling a reservation at his local Pizza Hut. With the impact of lockdown, people are waiting weeks and months to get to see doctors, and he thinks it's a case of, everyone can jump and accommodate me. What world does this guy live in? You're the jerk. Can't believe people are still doing this gender reveal crap. How stupid do you have to be to think that just because the doctor tells you it's a boy or a girl, that's actually what they will be? Only they know what gender they are, and it may take a few years to figure it out. I knew what my gender was by the time I was in kindergarten, and I battled my parents about it for the next 13 years. Not you, your wife, nor any doctor can make that decision for them. As long as you take part in this antiquated practice, you are so part of the problem. I'm no contact with my parents for over 10 years now because they were just as stupid and judgmental as you are. I hope you and your wife won't be as horrible as my parents were, but I doubt you won't be. Yowza knowza. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. Pro tip, make him take an IQ test before you have a baby with him. Entitled woman gets shut down at the grocery store. This has been ongoing since before I even worked at this store. The lady comes in once a week and demands to be waited on when she's ready, and she's certainly not waiting in any line. She goes to a closed register and unloads her groceries. She then complains she didn't know it was closed, so usually someone gives in and waits on her so she doesn't have to put everything back in the cart and move to an actual open lane. Today was not the day for it. I woke up on the wrong side and was just not having it today. My department head is exhausted from all the hours she's putting in due to being short-staffed and doesn't give two hoots right now. Same for my store manager that's having to work 12-hour days to help night stock and to run the store 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. daily. They are both heavily dependent on their front-end shift managers to run things for them. This is giving us a little more power over these entitled jerks that think they have the God-given right to mistreat us. My department head was on a conference call with corporate, and my store manager was unloading a truck. So I get a call to come to a register that's closed. What? I arrive, and there she is, still unloading, but quite a bit on the belt. Me. Excuse me, ma'am, but this lane is closed. Karen. I didn't know. How was I supposed to know? Me. I don't know. Maybe by the neon green sign with the red letters that say closed, or the chain across the lane that also says closed, or the fact no one is standing at that register. Well, I didn't see them, so you need to get someone to wait on me. I don't have anyone to run the register right now. That's why it's closed. Make one of them. Pointing at the baggers that are not register trained. Me. That is not their job. They're doing their jobs. You will need to take your stuff and go to an actual open register. Then you do it. I'm sorry, but I'm unable to be on a register at this time. You will have to take your groceries to an actual open lane. I'm not reloading this cart. Get one of them to help me if you want me to move. Me. No, they're busy assisting customers at the open lanes. I will just leave it all then. That's fine. You would rather me leave all of this than to wait on me? Ma'am, I have other things to attend to right now. If you want your groceries, move to another lane or leave them and we will put things back when we're able. At this point, I walked away and back to the service desk to wait on the people in line there. Now, the whole time this conversation was going on, she continued to unload. From what the others told me, she completely unloaded her cart, then stood with her hands on her hips for a few minutes, complaining and asking why no one was helping her. Other customers were rolling their eyes and scoffing at her. Miracle of miracles. She loaded it all back into her cart, but then she ramped it up and tried to cut the lines, loudly proclaiming she had been waiting and no one came to help her, so she had the right to cut. Not one customer let her cut. She ended up at the back of the lines. Because of her own self-entitlement, she probably waited 20 to 30 minutes extra to be waited on. But it gets even better. About 20 to 30 minutes after she left, she came back and came to the service desk. She had her cart still full. By now, both of my bosses have been informed of what happened. Both of them laughed because we're all just sick of being treated like crap. Me, customer service voice, and pretending I've never seen her before. Hi, what can I do for you today? Karen, I want to return all of this and get my money back.
I don't appreciate how I was treated today. I'm going to
The other store 20 minutes away.
from now on.
Me. Unfortunately, I'm unable to do that. Due to lockdown restrictions, once it leaves the store, we are unable to do refunds and exchanges unless there is a quality issue.
Get me a manager.
Me. I am the shift manager on duty at this time.
Get me your boss.
My boss, walking out of the office behind me. Can I help you? Karen.
Yes, you can. This jerk refused to ring up my groceries after I had already unloaded. She walked away from the register after I had unloaded and told me to go to heck.
Me, about to explode from laughter and pent-up anger, but wisely kept my mouth shut. My boss, very slowly, crystal clear she doesn't believe her. Really? Karen.
Yes, and I would like a refund on my groceries due to how she humiliated me.
My boss. Well, I can't refund you your groceries due to lockdown restrictions, but I can call my store manager and we will review the footage from the cameras to see if we need to take any action. You're saying Brandy, me, was on a register, waiting on customers, stood there while you unloaded, then closed her lane, walked away, and yelled at you?
Yes.
My boss. I'm calling the store manager right now. Brandy, go to the office to wait, please. Store manager, after being updated by my boss. Yes, ma'am. Can I help you? Karen.
Like I told her,
Pointing at my boss.
that one that's in there
Pointing to the office.
is so rude. She waited until I was unloading to tell me the register was closed, then walked away. Didn't offer to help me, wouldn't let anyone else help me, and told me to go to heck.
Store manager. So you're saying Brandy had a register open, waited for you to unload, and then just walked away for no reason, yelling at you as she left? Karen.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was open, but she waited until I had unloaded to tell me it was closed, and I had to go to another lane, then refused to help me or let anyone else help me. And now I want a refund for how badly she treated me, and neither of them will give me one.
Store manager. I'm not sure if they explained to you, but due to lockdown restrictions, once a product leaves the store, unless there's a quality issue, we do not do refunds or exchanges.
That's BS. I'm calling corporate.
That's fine. That is your right. However, this is their policy, not just mine.
Well, I'm also reporting all three of you for being so disrespectful, especially her.
Pointing to me, still in the office and listening. Store manager. That's also your right. I will be reviewing the camera footage and getting statements from all of my staff about what happened. Appropriate action will be taken from there. Corporate will get a report from me about the situation and what actions have been taken.
So, you have cameras? You can see everything?
Yes, ma'am. If you look at that monitor right there, it shows the current images being recorded. We're pretty impressed with our cameras and how clear they are. No grainy black and white images for us. Full color and very clear footage. Karen.
Well, you do that. I'm sure you will see she's clearly in the wrong for not going ahead and waiting on me, since I was already unloaded and it wasn't clear the lane was closed.
Store manager. So there was no sign or the chain was not across?
Well, I didn't notice if they were. I was unloaded. Everything out of my cart. It wouldn't have taken her but a few minutes, but she said she had other things to do.
Store manager. Such as the customer she asked to wait here at the desk while she had to come inform you that you were unloading at a closed register?
I don't know what she thought she had to do, but I was already unloaded and waiting. She should have just waited on me, or had one of those other baggers do it.
Not that I have to explain it, but neither of them are register trained and cannot use one.
Well, this is poor customer service. I think I'm calling my lawyer.
Store manager. And with that, we're done. I will now have to defer you to our corporate legal department. I'm no longer allowed to talk to you about this situation since you've brought up legal action. All discussion about this matter will have to be done through your lawyer and our legal department. Thank you and have a nice afternoon. Mic drop. Both store manager and my boss turned away and came into the office where I was. Store manager did get statements from the 4 employees. They all 4 stated they clearly told her that the lane was closed and she said it would be fine. Someone would show up to ring up her groceries. The only thing my store manager told me to do for next time is go ahead and have a bagger help her move. Oh, someone did tell her to go to heck. One of the other customers she tried to cut in front of. Another one called her an entitled jerk to get out of their way and find the end of the line. Don't like the amount offered? Then take nothing and like it. My wife, female 31, and I, male 33, like many other Americans, are beleaguered under the for-profit medical insurance industry. My wife gave birth to our precious first daughter in September of 2021, and we've been dealing with taking the little one to the doctor. Already had an emergency room visit, yay, and whatnot when we received the bill for the L&D at the hospital from December. We were charged over $20,000 for a straightforward regular delivery with an epidural. Even though I do not like our insurance, it covered a huge chunk of the amount due. That being said, there was still over $2,000 left. Well, with my wife being a teacher and myself being a state government worker, our income isn't exactly low, but neither is it high either. $2,000 out of pocket would put us into major debt. The hospital was very patient at first with trying to get paid until recently. I had been in communication with the hospital trying to negotiate the cheapest amount possible to clear the account. The hospital still wanted close to half of the amount in order to close the account out. I countered with what we could legitimately offer and co-signing myself to the addition of yet another auto debit coming out of our bank account because they weren't going to accept my offer. But then the account representative kept interrupting me during the phone call and was being outrageously rude. I understand that we have a debt, and I'm not trying to welch on it, but don't treat me like dirt because of this poor system that was charging my wife over $50 for one Advil, amongst other insanity. The account representative continued being nasty during the call and derisively suggested maybe I should go to the financial assistance program. So I did. I called the customer service line for that said program, and in less than 10 minutes, I was getting confirmation of the entire amount being forgiven. Apparently, when you make less than 300%, the federal poverty rate, and you go to most nonprofit hospitals, they will forgive the amount. The arrogant account representative tried to shame me into paying an outrageous price for services rendered and didn't want to accept my offer of paying some of the bill. So now they get absolutely nothing. Don't accept the medical bills that you receive. Fight tooth and nail to get it down. And if you're lucky, like my wife and I, you just may get it all cleared away. I don't know what I find weirder. The fact that you're charged insane amounts of money, or that you can just try to haggle it down, or even have it totally cleared away. Nothing tells you you've been ripped off more than being offered a huge discount afterwards. Wait, what? I get that Americans have a horrible healthcare system, but shouldn't a teacher and a state government employee make enough money so that $2,000 isn't a major debt? I consider a major debt something that takes months, if not years, to recover from. One of the many reasons I quit teaching was realizing that I would have to spend over half of my monthly income on housing forever. There was no getting ahead, even with a paid-off car and no other debt. I simply could not have paid $2,000 out of pocket without notice or help. I did a double take. Like, you're having a kid and you haven't saved up $2,000? Ay. Scrolled way too far to find this comment. If that's going to put them into major debt, they honestly can't afford kids. Heck, a pet would be sketchy if that amount is going to be a problem. Am I the jerk for refusing to buy him basic essentials after he blew his paycheck when he went out with his buddies? My boyfriend of 4 years and I work at the same place and get basically the same paycheck, about $560 bi-weekly. He has a lot more bills than I do because of fines he has to pay monthly, and his car insurance is extremely high. So usually I have like $400 after paying my half of the rent and bills, and he has like maybe $240-ish after all of his half and his other bills. Just to break it down, we go halves on all household stuff, including groceries. But his car and fines is 100% his responsibility, and my car is 100% mine. So on Friday, we pay all of our bills, per usual, and his buddy asks to go hang out with him. I've seen this before and forewarned him ahead of time that he needs to be cautious on spending because I wasn't covering things when he runs out of money. The last couple times he went out with buddies, he dropped like $140 for food and drinks, and I ended up having to pay for his gas for the next week, and he does this at least once a month, sometimes twice. He said that his buddy was covering dinner and paying for gas because he was driving a bit over an hour to get him, so it wasn't an issue. Alright, no problem. Well, he gets home on Saturday morning around maybe 4-ish in an Uber because he was trashed. And then he tells me that he spent $80 at the bar and that the Uber cost him almost $60, and his friend never gave him gas money because he forgot. So $140, not including the gas cost. I drive him to get his car later, wasting $30 in gas. At this point, he only has $40 left, which he used for gas for work. Well, he ended up asking me to get him food for lunch. We have food at the house, but he doesn't like bringing that stuff because it's not an easy meal, as in he would have to use the break room, Lord forbid, versus sit in his car and stuff his face while chain smoking. So he wanted me to buy snacks and sandwich stuff, as well as buy him body wash and toothpaste because he ran out. It would be one thing if this man had cheaper taste, but he doesn't. He is materialistic. So the body wash he gets is almost $18, the toothpaste he gets is almost $15, and his sandwiches consist of easily 8 pieces of meat, top-of-the-line ham and roast beef, and 2 pieces of cheese per sandwich, and he always brings 2 or 3 with him to work. So collectively, this would have cost me nearly $60, and once again, wouldn't have any money left over for myself.
I'm sorry, but why are you with this guy?
I wanted to get my hair done for my sister's wedding next weekend, and I wouldn't have the money for it if I were to do this for him again. So I told him no. I warned him beforehand, and he still went out and spent a ton of money. He says I'm the jerk because he would have done this for me, which is up for debate because who knows if he actually would, as I've always been good with my money and I've never needed his help, so who knows. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. But to be honest, you don't sound like you like this person very much in the way you talk about these spending habits. I think you should really evaluate if you want to spend your future with someone this reckless with their money. OP, you're right. It does sound like that because the post is definitely outlining my most loathed quality about him. He's great outside of his spending habits, but the resentment I have built up over all these spending habits is quite high. He wasn't even like this until maybe a year ago when he had some sort of mental break. Then all of a sudden he started spending money like he was rich, which we are most definitely not. Money, especially differences in spending habits, is one of the leading causes of divorce. Do you want to be financially responsible for him? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know.
This story stressed me out just listening to it. Financially, responsibility irks me like no other.
Am I the jerk for not giving my sister, a single mom, money for a car when I can afford to do so? I, 17 female, have an online shop that I've been running for about 2 years now. It sells mostly stickers with my custom art, as well as some other small items. I put a lot of work into it. Basically, if I'm not doing school stuff, I'm working on stuff for my shop. I love it. The lockdown has let me put in even more time. Over the past 10 months, it's really done well. I have a good chunk of money saved for university and other things. My sister, 25 female, is divorced with 2 kids, a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. She has a job and child support. We've never gotten along. She always acted like she was embarrassed by me. She said I'm an antisocial nerd loser, which is fair. One of the things she always made fun of was my sticker hobby. She said stickers were juvenile, and I'm just creating more garbage in the world. She totaled her car recently and can't afford a new one. My parents told her to ask me for a loan. They can't afford to help her. And she sort of scoffed and asked them how much a loser like me could have. I don't even work. They told her how much I have in my bank account, and she called me demanding I buy her a new car. Not asking, demanding. She said I don't need the money, that I could get student loans like she did, and that I was a bad sister for not offering to help her out or pay her when I knew how tough she had it. She eats at restaurants all the time, buys expensive clothes and shoes and bags, makeup palettes, trips to the spa with her friends before lockdown. I had no idea she had it tough, but in fairness, even if I had, I probably wouldn't have given her money. At no point in this conversation did she mention paying me back. She said that I've never contributed anything to the family, which is a joke coming from her, and that further to buying her a new car, I should give her what I make from my dumb hobby, since as a single mom, she needs the money much more than I do, as I live rent-free at home and don't contribute to bills or groceries. The thing is, she's not wrong, but I don't want to give her a cent. She's my sister and I love her, but I don't like her very much. She's selfish and entitled, and it bugs me she just makes these demands like I'm the one being unreasonable. So I said heck no, and that she probably is too good for my baby sticker money anyway. I wouldn't want her to stoop to my level. Then I hung up and stopped responding to her texts, calls, and DMs. My parents won't force me to do anything. They say it's up to me, but that I should reconsider. She's my sister and is having a hard time, and there are 2 babies involved. They need a car. I don't strictly need the money right away like she does, and I was pretty snarky with her. So Reddit, am I the jerk? My girlfriend refused to dress formally for my work's extremely formal event. My boss threw a charity party to raise money to fund research projects for a rare disease. I won't be giving any details just in case someone I know sees this. Many of the guests were very important, influential people in my city and in my field of work, and obviously my coworkers were also there. It was a very formal event. Dress code was white tie and everything. I, 27 male, invited my girlfriend, who's 25, as my +1. We've been dating for 1 year, and I've never had any issues with the way she dresses. I would never tell her how to dress, but then this unfortunately happened. We don't live together, so I got ready and drove to her house. I saw she was wearing a very tight, short skirt with one of those shirts that are kinda open in the middle. Of course, she looked great. If we were going anywhere else, like a club or a restaurant, I wouldn't even think twice about it. But we were going to a very formal charity event. When she got in the car, I asked if she forgot it was a white tie event, and she was like, "No, why? Is there something wrong with my outfit?" So I said that it was not appropriate for the occasion and asked if she could go change. She was very offended. I told her I totally understand why she would be offended, but explained that this was a very formal charity event and I couldn't show up with her wearing that outfit, especially with my boss and coworkers there. She got so angry and refused to change her outfit, saying I was being a jerk. I tried to explain it one more time, but she kept saying I had to accept it or she wouldn't go with me. So after a lot of arguing, I said she would have to stay home then. I went to the party without her, and we haven't been talking because she wants me to apologize and make it up to her. I really like this girl, but I also don't think I'm in the wrong here. She went partying with her friends that night, and she obviously told all of her friends about what happened. They all think I'm the jerk, and they keep commenting petty things on my social media posts, and recently, even her brother has been threatening me. Maybe I was a jerk and I don't realize it. Am I the jerk? Edit. Since a few people have asked, yes, I did tell her it was a white tie event as soon as I got the invitation and asked if she'd want to go with me. But no, I didn't explain to her in detail what exactly white tie means. I assumed she knew, so maybe that was my mistake. I did explain to her in the car when I asked if she could change, but she was already too offended and wouldn't listen. Not the jerk. Events have dress codes. That is a hard truth. She could have cost you your job. Not the jerk. The event host set the dress code, not you. Your girlfriend made a deliberate choice to dress in opposition to the dress code, so she didn't get to go. You don't owe her anything, not an apology, and certainly not some making up for her mistake. Okay, I've been in her position before, and let me tell you, you are the jerk. Just because others are conforming doesn't mean you can force her to. You have no right to tell her what to wear, regardless of how important you think your little get-together is. I hope she dumps you for someone who actually respects her. I would never date a guy who tries to tell me what I can and can't wear. I can't believe how many people are making excuses for your blatant being a jerk. Crap like this is why I only date guys who make minimum wage or unemployed like myself. Guys who make ridiculous amounts of money always think it entitles them to boss you around. Newsflash, being a rich boy doesn't entitle you to crap, and you're no better than me. I have 2 toddlers I'm raising as a single mom, and I hope to God they don't grow up to be jerks like you. Alrighty then. Hey Karen, you ever feel like Reddit is a zoo? Zoo would be an understatement, Reddit boy. Insane asylum would be more accurate. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she doesn't have to come to my wedding? My sister has 2 kids, an 8-year-old and a newborn. Our wedding, 1.5 years away, is supposed to be child-free with the exception of siblings because my fiance and I both have large age gaps between us and our siblings. He has a 3, a 4, and a 12-year-old brother, and I have a teenage brother. I also have my sister and older brother. Obviously, we want our siblings at our wedding, even if they're kids and it breaks our child-free rule. For our wedding, we're renting out a huge Airbnb for a week, a literal mansion, where the wedding and reception will be, and invited all immediate family to stay with us for the week as our first family vacation as an official family. I love my nephews, I really do, but my fiance and I wanted to plan a bunch of adult/couples events like wine tasting, e-bike tours, snorkeling, etc., and I don't want kids with me when we do it. The host was nice enough to match us with some babysitters that he frequently works with for events just like this, so the other kids, our younger siblings, will stay at the Airbnb with the babysitter, but our parents know they have to pay for the babysitter. My fiance and I are paying for all of the adult events we have planned, like the wine tasting and tours, etc., and they're okay with it. We want them to pay for childcare simply because I don't want to be responsible for anyone's kids for the entirety of the wedding and vacation afterwards, financially or emotionally. There will be plenty of things for the kids to do at the Airbnb as well. My sister said it's not fair that our siblings are invited, but not my nephews, and I told her if I broke the child-free rule for everyone I loved, there would be no child-free rule. She told me that if I'm not allowing kids, I have to pay for childcare and find someone to stay with them for a week. I told her no. She said, "I'm not paying for a babysitter," and I told her, "Then don't come." I was upset she was trying to manipulate me into paying for childcare when I'm literally offering her an all-expense vacation. The only thing she has to pay for is childcare for her own kids. I told her if she was going to make my wedding about her, I don't want her there. She then flipped out and called me every name she could think of, so I yanked her invite altogether and told her I'd send her pics of the wedding and vacation afterwards so she can see where her selfishness got her. My family is super close to each other, and I love my nephews, so everyone was very surprised I made the wedding child-free. But after I yanked my sister's invite, people started to also decline the invite. My response has pretty much been, "You aren't punishing me the way you think you are. All you're doing is saving me money. But if you don't come support me on my love day, then expect me to go no contact." Now everyone is upset at me. I think this may have come off as a bit bridezilla, but I don't think I owe any of them anything, honestly. It's my wedding. Am I being selfish here? Edit. I don't think I made it clear that my family is holding their attendance over my head and are saying, "If you don't invite your sister and nephews, I won't come either." So I told them, "Don't come." But I didn't appreciate the way they were trying to manipulate my decision, so I told them if they don't come, I'm going no contact. Edit 2. I told her she could come for the wedding and not stay for the vacation, but she wanted both. I only uninvited her after she said a bunch of nasty stuff to me. The exception to the child-free rule is for immediate family only. There will be things for the kids to do at the Airbnb. And a lot of people are saying, "Wait till you have kids." But I would just not come to the wedding. I would choose my kids over the wedding. To me, it's my love day, but I understand to everyone else it's just a stupid wedding, and I'm okay with that. No one has to come that doesn't want to, and I'm okay with that. It's completely understandable. But people that are not coming out of spite of the situation, I take a problem with. Update. After reading all of the comments telling me no one cares about our wedding, the vacation doesn't sound like it would be fun at all, I'm being controlling, I'm being selfish, and an entitled bridezilla, I clearly don't value my family, etc. My fiance and I have decided to cancel our wedding altogether. We'll have a small ceremony for us and our parents, and then my husband and I will use the big beautiful mansion we rented out as our honeymoon. We'll message the Airbnb host tomorrow about moving the date up. We're very excited. I realize neither of us wanted to cater to anyone because the only people that matter when it comes to our marriage is us. Forget everyone else. To everyone saying that child-free weddings are egotistical, no one cares about your kids. I love kids, I really do, but no one should have to cater to your kids' needs except for you. Thank you all for making me realize how stupid family weddings are. We don't need them present to have our happily ever after. We'd prefer to avoid the drama altogether. That's all. Update. OMG, where do I start? I moved in with her after her kid was born and her baby daddy left. I was only 15 and lived with her for 3 years and helped raise her kid, but she swears it never happened. When she moved out of my parents, she took the family dog with her. The last time she moved, she asked for heck because she's pregnant, but then sat the entire time and did nothing. I had to clean hers and her son's room, which both had trash up to my knees, and then pack everything because her stomach hurt. Not to sound insensitive, but the only time she seems to feel sick was when she had to do something. She was about 3 months along. My fiance, boyfriend at the time, and I offered to help her move, like actually pack up the truck and move furniture and such. And again, she sat doing nothing the entire time. It was -5 degrees outside, and she sat in the car. Once we were done, I got into the car and she said, "Oh, good, you're done." And I was like, "Yeah, we're done. You could have helped." And she said, "It's cold." I was so mad. But she was pregnant, so I pushed through. I kept helping. After my boyfriend and I were talking about where we wanted to eat, and she started screaming at us to shut up because she's hungry and doesn't want to listen to people talk about food. I was mortified. He spent all day lugging furniture in negative weather, and she was so rude, never even thanked him. Then I was over the moon to throw her a baby shower. I love kids, but she never sent me an invite list. I waited months and eventually made it myself because we were running out of time, and she pitched a fit about who I did or didn't invite. And then she uninvited me. to a baby shower that I spent hundreds of dollars and hours of time planning. The only job she had as the pregnant mother was to make an invite list and to show up on time. But she also complained about the time I planned it. I couldn't believe it. Final update. I sent out an email canceling the wedding to avoid any conflicts with childcare arrangements, and we decided it wasn't fair to people with kids. Obviously, this isn't true, but that's where this all began, so I didn't tell anyone about the conflict between my sister and I, but she had already dragged half of my family into it, so they knew the situation. This is each person's reaction. My parents, they were disappointed, but understood. My sister has always been a nightmare, and we have always given her anything she wants, if for nothing else, just to shut her up. They literally let her take the family dog just to keep her from throwing a tantrum. They're glad that I shut her up as well as not just giving in to what she wants. His parents, they were so sad. They were really excited to have this vacation, but they're still happy for us and understand. Younger siblings are crushed. I'm going to go on a weekend trip with them to make it up for it. That seemed to cheer them up a bit. Sister. My sister made a Facebook post telling everyone what an arrogant jerk I am. She texted me saying she never wants to see me again, but she also said that when I accidentally broke her favorite perfume, and again when I told her son he couldn't have my cat. Yes, my cat of 2 years. And she told her son in front of me, "Maybe Auntie will let you take the cat when we leave." And she put me in an awkward and upsetting position of telling my nephew and sister absolutely not. And again, when I wouldn't make her dozens of meals for free to freeze after she gave birth. And again, when I didn't buy her a gift for her baby shower that she uninvited me to, that I planned. She'll get over it once she needs a babysitter again, like every time. Everyone else, honestly, that's just too much to go into. Some people are upset they don't get to attend the wedding and are calling me petty and small. I don't care. But some are just annoyed because this is what my sister does. This is who she is. I decided I don't care if I'm the jerk or not. It's my wedding. My fiance is happy with this decision, and we will do what we want. But honestly, the people calling me the jerk were usually jerks themselves, telling me I'll get divorced. My family probably hates me, and they should go no contact with me either way. That I'm insufferable, that I can't stand kids, that I'm a bad aunt, that I should never have kids, that I'm entitled, etc. And I don't think I should cater to people like that. Thanks for helping me realize how ungrateful people are. Not the jerk. People have child-free weddings all the time. My wedding was child-free. Siblings are way different than nieces and nephews. Sorry, but it's true. No one is entitled to come to your expenses-paid vacation wedding, especially not if they want you to pay for their childcare on top of a free trip. OP. That's what I think. People are saying it's wrong to invite siblings but not nephews, but nephews aren't immediate family, and those are the only people we bent the rules for. Yeah, you could have handled it with more grace, but they shouldn't be surprised you're acting negatively when they effectively are trying to punish you for something they don't agree with. I honestly am gonna go with not the jerk. Your parents agreed to pay for childcare because they understand that their kids are not your responsibility, no matter how much you love them, which is enough to allow kids to a kid-free wedding. Your sister has a year and a half to come up with childcare to attend a wedding that you're paying for. It's extremely selfish of her to expect you to pay for everything for your wedding and the entire vacation for all attendees, and then to also take care of her kids for her? It's also really low of her to insult you for not doing so. All the family members backing out and picking sides are kind of acting a little toxic, dangling their attendance over your head just so you'll cave to your sister's demands. It makes me feel like they favor her over you, and this is supposed to be your special event. She'd still have to pay for childcare for her kids to be watched at the Airbnb since you're not even allowing the child siblings to some events. Why is she expecting it would be different with her kids? Not the jerk. It's your wedding, and if you want to, you can make it child-free. You're offering your guest a place to stay for free while paying for everyone's activities. That's extremely generous. I understand if your sister doesn't want to come because she can't bring her kids, but it's also unreasonable for her to request that you pay for her kids' childcare. Also, she can't compare your nephew to your siblings. Those are different relationships. So I understand why you would want your younger siblings to attend and not your nephews. Good for you for staying firm in your decision. I don't know if I would go no contact with everyone who declines. They may be declining because they can't afford to pay for a sitter or feel uncomfortable leaving their kids for a week. I wouldn't assume that people are only declining to show solidarity with your sister. If you do find out that this is the case, then by all means, go no contact if that's how you truly feel. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
Fighting over an all-expenses-paid wedding vacation that lasts a week. Gotta love the first world problems.
My husband lied to me about our multi-generational house. Now I have no idea what to do. I've been married to my husband for 4 years now. We have 3 kids. When we got married, I moved in with him. The story I was told about the house we live in is that he bought the house with his grandparents and that once they passed, it would be just our house. When I moved in, his parents, his 19-year-old cousin, Bea, his grandmother, and occasionally his aunt still lived there. I was told that the aunt just visited but lived in another state, and that Bea was only living there until she finished college as a favor to her and her family. 4 years later, they are all still living here full-time as the aunt gave up her other house during 2020. Bea is now married and has a kid. While there are technically enough bedrooms for everyone with enough sharing, this house is way too overcrowded. It wasn't until late last year that I had had my 3rd child and expressed interest in having Bea's family and her mother at least work on moving out that I learned that that story was false. My husband and his parents don't co-own the house. The money that paid for the house is 40% my husband, 20% his parents, and 40% money from their grandparents that was gifted early. Part of the grandparents' stipulation for going in on this house was that Bea was to be put on the paperwork as well. Legally, Bea owns 33% of the house and is the 3rd name on the title. I was shocked by this. Bea will never want to move out and won't let us kick out her mother, and his parents have the right to live here for life, so this is just settled as a multi-generational house and will always be. Of course, my husband says he never told me any other story. I can't prove it, but it doesn't matter now. I hate living like this. I never wanted a multi-generational house. Everyone else is totally fine and happy with this, and from the outside it looks like a great situation. But this is never what I wanted. It feels like a commune. There's very little privacy and someone is around every corner. I've started opening up to my friends who express jealousy because I have live-in socialization, safe grandparent help, and a full tribe. I was tired of it, so I told them the truth. It got around, and now I'm public enemy number 1 in my house, and even accused of wanting a divorce if I hate my family so much. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk, but your husband is for lying to you. I'd actually consider a divorce for that alone. And you're not a jerk for venting to friends about the crappy, to you, even if others love it, situation you ended up in due to your husband's lies. I'd divorce over this too. It sounds like cultural differences here, as many cultures do live in generational houses. My mom's side does that, and I still live with my parents. It's not for everybody, and that's perfectly understandable. Unfortunately, your husband lied to you and is trying to gaslight you into believing what he wants you to. That's a red flag and something you need to discuss calmly with your husband. Be warned that it may not come to much, as he and his family think that leaving family is akin to leaving the family forever. By that, I mean leaving the household, in case that wasn't clear. Not the jerk. But what do you want to do now? Edit to include this from reading other comments from OP. OP, this is very concerning, and to be completely honest, kind of horrifying. Especially about the home birth being pushed on you, though you did not take that route. Please, please seek therapy for yourself. OP, I love my husband and I don't want to leave him or our family. Even if he wanted to leave, we realistically can't anyway. Our monthly expenses with the house easily equal a mortgage, not to mention family expenses for us and the kids. I can't work until the kids are all in school and might even have to homeschool now, so we're on one income. At best, we would be in a 1-bedroom apartment with no outdoor space, which is in no way better for them than a perfectly safe house with their whole extended family, where it's at most 2 people to a bedroom on multiple acres of land, trying to keep details vague. I live in a place where all of the houses are on maybe a quarter of an acre of land, so take this with a grain of salt, but multiple acres sounds huge to me. Is it possible to build a cottage or 2 for Bea and her mom, or maybe for just mom and dad? Can you add a private wing or in-law suite to the house with its own kitchenette and sitting area? Anything to partition the space a bit. OP, some of it is taken up by Bea's garden and chickens, which does cut down on grocery costs for us all. There's a full playground and trampoline, a pool, space for the dogs, and outdoor hangout area. And then there's the woods. It's a lot of space, but not as much as you would think. There isn't space for an entire other house. Maybe there's enough space for a small shed or a tiny house for you, an art studio, office space, private reading nook. Somewhere to get away would probably help a ton just in the immediate sense. Other than that, you're definitely going to want to talk to your husband about how he lied and misrepresented the situation entirely, but at least a little breathing room could help you feel more comfortable. OP. A shed, definitely. I'll bring this up. I'm definitely angry with my husband about this and will be for a while. It just doesn't mean I want a divorce. I second the idea of a little shed for you. We bought a 10 by 12 wooden shed, insulated it, and ran electric to it. It became my oldest's bedroom, so they wouldn't have to share a room with siblings. It was a lifesaver. Now, it's my little office for me, much cheaper than an addition. I'm sorry, but Bea is honestly not at all to blame, and to be honest, seems to be helping you out here. Do you have any personal issues with Bea? I would seriously contemplate divorce, as the only jerk here is your husband. The rest of the family need to know what you were told about, though he will deny it to save face, of course. I'm shocked that you have 3 kids together in this home. It is irresponsible, and honestly, it seems like everyone sucks here except Bea. OP. She's 33% owner and 90% of the emotional problem. She would go absolutely ballistic if she thought that her family's life in the house was threatened. This is her first stable home, and she is scarily committed to this as a lifetime thing, considering she's not even 22. Someone mentioned renting out rooms, and the reason that would be completely unworkable is Bea. If she wasn't a player in this, we could probably get the idea out there, and of course there would be standards. But with her, it would be the definition of hostile living situation for whoever moved in. There's tons of wiggle room with what we would actually be able to rent out, so she would make sure that only the worst rooms were free. She would insist on a full background check on anyone moving in, and she would use anything she could to get them out if they got through. There's maybe one friend of hers she would let in, but that friend couldn't pay rent. Do I personally have an issue with her? Not really. I thought I did, but that was when I thought she was being an entitled teenager, making way too many changes to a house that she was eventually leaving. Bea is 0% of your problem. Your problem is your husband, who has lied to you for the entirety of your relationship. He has likely lied about other things and will likely continue to do it because it gets him what he wants. Bea living in her house she legally owns is not a problem. Your problem is your lying husband. Honestly, it does not sound like Bea is ever going to leave that house, which is her right. She owns it and it's her house. So you need to decide if you are fine staying living with her or figure out a way to move out. I don't know why you would ever stay with someone who has lied and manipulated you like this for your entire relationship. So good luck with that. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or is her husband? Please let us know.
5 acres of land is a nice amount of space. I hope they clear out a section of the woods and build a tiny house in it. And why not design it after a hobbit hole? I love Lord of the Rings.
Am I the jerk for hiding behind the couch so my sister wouldn't hand her screaming baby to me? I'm 14, female, and my sister Della, who's 19, is in college. She took her second semester off because she recently had a baby, Roxy, who's 0, female. She knows who the father is, but they aren't in a relationship. Della came back home for the semester break to make it easier for her. Roxy has these meltdowns, don't have a better word, where she's cranky, tired, and is just screaming her head off. When I sing a certain song to her by a pop band I love, she calms down. I have to sing to her for an hour or more. I'm not a good singer, but Roxy likes it anyway. It also works when she's just normal fussy crying. Della always hands Roxy to me when she cries, especially during her meltdowns. Della and I had an argument a week ago about the stupidest thing. Della wanted me to stop singing a song under my breath while I was making myself a snack, and I said I can't control it. It was about the noise. It was about her thinking that I'm a terrible singer and not wanting to be subjected to that god-awful noise. She told me that I was a selfish, lazy jerk who doesn't care about anyone but myself, and I said, fine. Since my singing is so bad, I won't calm Roxy down with it. She said fine. On Thursday, when I got home from school, my parents were working and Roxy was having one of her meltdowns. Della tried to hand me Roxy. I said no, my singing is crap, and I didn't want to subject anyone to it, and walked away. Then I hid behind the couch so she wouldn't be able to force me into helping with Roxy. Della thought I'd gone to a friend's and didn't look for me for a while, until she decided to call me to see when I'd be home. She heard the phone ring and was furious that I didn't come out and help her. My parents are telling me that it was super immature to hide. Della is a stressed, sleep-deprived teenager, and she needed me then, and I wasn't there for her. And now I don't know. They want me to apologize, but I don't want to. But maybe I was just being petty and Della was just tired. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Della's baby is not your baby. You're 14 years old. If she's so stressed, she should be looking into some sort of child support or help from the father. But forcing her baby on her 14-year-old sister is not okay. Seriously, and the parents defending Della are gross too. This is not OP's baby. The parents are only defending this because they don't want to handle the baby either. Dumping this on a kid is inexcusable. Watch, OP soon won't be able to hang out with friends. We'll have to cancel plans and we'll lose out on weekend fun, all because the parents and her stupid sister don't want to watch the baby. I mean, that was a super immature way to deal with it. But 1, you're a kid, so you're allowed to be immature. 2, that's not your baby and you aren't responsible for always being the one to calm her down. Not the jerk. Am I the jerk for lying to my wife about what time the guests arrive because she takes too long to get the food ready? My wife has a huge struggle with time management. Whenever we have guests over, they always end up waiting far too long for the food to be ready. Her argument is that she is struggling because there's just so much to do all at the same time. I'm the complete opposite. I get all chores done on time and have never had an issue with having so much to do at the same time. Last week we were having some guests over. She wanted to prepare a few dishes and asked when exactly the guests would be arriving. I lied to her. Instead of saying 5, I said 4. She got into the kitchen earlier and started preparing the food. 4 rolled around and she asked why the guests hadn't arrived yet. I kept stalling, saying maybe there was traffic or something. My wife began questioning the fact that they were even coming, but at 5 they arrived. We welcomed them. Food got served on time, had more time to talk and hang out in the living room. My wife then asked one of the guests what made them arrive an hour late. He said that they were meant to arrive at the time they agreed upon, which was 5, and told her that I knew that. I felt absolutely awful, but I kept my cool and tried to change the subject. Through the looks my wife gave me, she wasn't going to let it go. After they left, she confronted me, and I admitted lying to her about the time of the arrival so she could be ready on time to serve the food, and also since it was not cool to keep them waiting like she did in the past. She said I was unbelievable and that I never should have lied, but I said I felt frustrated with this whole thing that wouldn't get fixed. She said if I don't like it, then I should do it, but I said I already do my part and never complain. She said that I insulted her and lied to her and made her feel like she's a terrible host, then stormed off. I tried talking to her about it again, but she told me off, calling what I did sneaky and offending to her efforts when I was just trying to figure out a fix for the issue. Am I the jerk, or is she overreacting? You're the jerk. Perhaps the two of you need to switch roles when entertaining. You do the cooking and time-sensitive stuff. She can greet the guests and entertain while you take care of the finishing touches. It really doesn't sound as if her timing is that bad. You told her 4, she had the food ready by 5. If you told her 5, the food would have been ready around 6. A reasonable mealtime. Just have a tray of snacks and some drinks for while people settle down. It is a nicer party if you aren't rushed to the table the moment you come through the door. Or maybe he needs to complete the chores before and help the wife in the kitchen. It can be hard to socialize and cook at the same time. Anyways, OP is the jerk. We're pretty close friends to a family, and whenever we go there for dinner, my uncle, well not really my uncle, but I call him that, makes dinner. I've never seen his wife make food for parties, and that's just because my uncle enjoys cooking much more. And even then, we don't have dinner immediately after arriving. There's usually wine or something like tea and a bunch of snacks. Then us cousins go play some card games and stuff until the dinner is ready. Oh, and usually when we're all hanging out together, some of the guests are helping in the kitchen too. And it's pretty natural because the kitchen is connected to the living room and everyone's talking and hanging out, even if they're cooking in the kitchen and stuff like that. Last time we went there, which was a few weeks ago, my brother and my cousin did the dishes together after dinner. It's really not hard to help at a party. People should learn that a party isn't supposed to be all stress for the host, or even worse, the wife. Everyone, including the guests, can help so all people have fun and enjoy their time. I'm gonna go opposite and say, not the jerk. I'm like the wife in this story. No matter what time people say to meet, and no matter how much advanced warning I have, I'm always late. Always. My mother has taken to telling me wrong times for family gatherings because she knows I'll be late. But I never know if she's telling me an hour early, half hour, or the actual time. She mixes it up. The result? I'm generally about 15 minutes late all of the time, she tells me, and that makes us arrive with the other guests. It's brilliant, I think. I know she's doing this. It's not a secret. We discussed it. It makes me panic enough that I don't know the real time that I try my best to arrive on time, which ends up being late anyway, but not super late. OP's wife needs to get over herself. It's inconsiderate and rude to always be late. She knows it, I know it. People who are late know this. We also know that our on-time relatives are sick of it. OP is sick of it. OP sounds like he cleans and does his share of the duties to prepare for guests. The wife owes her spouse and her guests the courtesy of being on time. Info. Do you help your wife with preparing for guests, like cleaning the house, setting the table, helping in the kitchen, or is she doing all of the prep herself? I think we all know the answer. His chores are probably mowing the lawn and chilling the beer while she runs around getting everything ready for 7 hours. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk here or not? Please let us know.
If you know someone's always late, so you tell them an earlier time, which results in them not being late, where's the issue? These commenters on Reddit just love to whine and complain about everything. I can't take this anymore, Reddit boy.
I'm suing Karen, knowing it will destroy her family's finances. Between the ages of 12 and 17, my mother was moving me from one psychologist or therapist to another, claiming they weren't a good fit for me. I found out years after that she was offering them cash under the table to tell her what I was saying and probe me on particular issues she had covered up to determine how much I knew or suspected. When they refused, she switched them. I found out a few years ago that the last guy she took me to, ages 15.5 onward, a psychiatrist she left me with for over a year, not only did take the extra money to tell her what I was sharing, which I already kinda knew, but the medication he put me on was at her request. There was no medical reason for me to be on any medication, and on top of that, the medication mix I was prescribed was a no-no to combine due to serious counteracting. The medication had a demonstrative, harmful effect on my general health, with side effects I still suffer to this day. I lawyered up, gathered overwhelming and indisputable proof, and started the legal process to sue the crap out of him. Realistically, we're looking at a mid to high 7-figure amount. A few weeks ago, he had a heart attack and passed. I ran into, or was ambushed by, his widow recently. She was remarkably collected, numb, and informed me that she did not have the mental bandwidth to handle this lawsuit as she is grieving and taking care of the kids, 2 kids between the ages of 8 to 12, I believe, as he was the sole breadwinner. She also let me know that they did not have the ability to pay out the amount the lawsuit was probably settled for, and she would have to drain college funds and sell their family house, cabin house, and a place that houses her parents, leaving them, herself, and the kids homeless. 5 people. She begged me to accept a much lower settlement offer and not rob her kids of not only their father, but also their childhood home, all of their memories, and their future. Here's where I could be the jerk. I told her no, nothing else, looked her in her eyes, and just said no. From what my lawyer advised me, you do not engage in conversations with people you are legally opposing. I started walking away, and she teared up, saying his heart attack was from the stress of the lawsuit, asking, do I really want to punish the kids for what their father did? I told her, do not contact me again, and got out of the store. Knowing their situation, I'm now having a moral dilemma. Even at 7 figures, I will not miss this amount, but I could do good with it. I have also lost my father young, so I know how devastating it would be to lose my home as well. But as much sympathy as I have for his family, it is on my torment he had built their life, and not just mine, as we have discovered. My lawyer, fiance, and family encourage me to let it play out. Am I the jerk if I don't settle for less? Edit. Won't his insurance cover this incident? Most medical malpractice policies do not cover liability that arises from criminal acts and inappropriate alteration of medical records, both of which he did and are included in the lawsuit, so his policy does not cover everything. Edit 2. Will you also sue your mother? There will probably be legal action taken as well against my mother, but for now, I'm taking one lawsuit at a time, as they are expensive and mentally draining. Suing the psychiatrist was much easier than suing my mother, so we started there. After this is done, we will explore options. Not the jerk. His familial wealth and ability to own all that he owned and create the college funds and the living situation his family has or had were partially built on his unethical behavior. He drew the benefits of his unethical actions, let them draw the consequences. If they have homeowner's insurance, and if he had malpractice insurance, some of those may help cover the settlement. The malpractice insurance may be able to wiggle itself out from any liability because it was doing something illegal, but other insurance may help. This is where it is important to follow through. Someone that profits off of criminal actions will usually hide behind, "This money is for my family or kids or my mother." By letting them keep it, even if they've passed, it sets the standard as criminal actions are bad, but if you use the money nobly, you get to keep it. It's exactly this reason why as a society, we should take it back. You want potential criminals to know they will be worse off and the Faustian bargain won't work. That and their partners know the risk too. It's unfortunate for the family, but that's not OP's fault. Not the jerk. Their family home and cabin was paid for, at the very least, with your pain and illegal medicating, of which you're still suffering the repercussions of. And how many others did he hurt to save for his kids' college fund? Steady on and take care of yourself. Not the jerk. There's two options here. The first, she's telling the truth. Everything she says would happen. Here's the thing. Even if this is the case, you still deserve compensation for your suffering, both past and continued. Courts do not simply award seven-figure settlements like candy. Your experience was clearly horrific, and you deserve to be compensated. Put another way, the money and homes she and her family have at the moment were built on your suffering and that of other people like you. Option 2, she's lying. What she's not telling you is that her in-laws have backup college funds for the kids. By homeless, she means she'll have to rent rather than own, and she might have to sell 3 properties, but she has enough other possessions that she can sell and buy a new home. I'm more likely to believe that this is the case, that she's lying, because of this. She teared up, saying his heart attack was from the stress of the lawsuit. She's blaming you for trying to hold him accountable. She's saying that you trying to get justice for being medically mistreated was what ended her husband. She's telling you you've already ended her husband, so you owe her. She's trying to guilt you. Now, if she's telling the truth, she could easily have approached you through the correct channels and requested mediation or an out-of-court discussion where she put forth all of these details. The fact that she's trying to ambush you makes me think that if and when your lawyer looks at her and her family's financials, you'll find that there's a lot more to it than she told you, and she's trying to prevent that from happening. And that's without assuming that there's money hidden in offshore accounts. Given the amount of money a person would need to have to own 3 properties plus full college funds for 2 kids, I wouldn't be surprised if this were the case either. Personally, I'd say go for the 7 figures you're owed. If you're uncomfortable, ask your lawyer about the full details of her financials, and if there are any other sources of money she may have that she doesn't want to disclose. In-laws who will take care of her and the kids, rich old relatives who will pass on and leave her huge inheritances, stuff like that. Make sure you know what her financials are based on the facts, not her "woe is me" story. And make a call once you have all the information, not just what she wanted you to know. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
I'd say go for 2 million, to be honest. I can only imagine how many people's lives were negatively affected by that scumbag doctor.
How Mrs. Reliable got her jerk boss fired. Background. I've been working the retail business for over 20 years, and let me tell you, some of the managers they hire can do a better job, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. Over the years of doing retail, I have established a reputation for myself. I'm Mrs. Reliable. Need somebody to come in? They call me. Need someone to stay late? They call me. Need to switch with someone because management said no for your day off? They call me. You can probably see where this story might be going. This story takes place a couple of years ago when I worked at a major grocery store in my town as a cashier. This took place a couple of years ago, back in 2020. I'm on my 2 years at this store, and we went through so many people and managers, it wasn't funny. Literally, it felt like we had a revolving door with how much turnover and employment we had. Getting back to the story, I was a cashier, and the thing about me doing this job is that I have a tendency to be too good at my job. I was just hired to be a cashier. I was not a manager, nor a monitor, someone that is a step down from manager but doesn't have all the responsibilities of management, nor was I a customer service. However, I was trained for nearly all of the duties of someone who is. Need change? I went to cashier, got the money out of the drawer, and went to grab the change that they needed. Need an override? I came over to see what the problem was and did the override. I did all of this on top of my cashier duties and self-checkout duties. Then, Jerk came along. My manager at the time, let's call her Ashley. Ashley is the front-end manager, meaning she's in charge of everything that goes on at the registers, cash office, where all the money is, customer service, and the self-checkouts. Now, I liked Ashley. She was a really good boss, and I liked working with her. Ashley had gotten pregnant and was expecting her second kid. I was excited for her. Unfortunately, when Ashley came back though, she was no longer going to be a manager, nor was she going to be full-time. She decided to come back as part-time. I can't really blame her though. You're working 40 hours a week and are not allowed any overtime whatsoever. Plus, you can be working as early as 5 a.m. to working as late as when the last customer decides to leave. Last time that happened, they didn't get out until 11:15 p.m. Enter jerk. If you ever wonder what happened to that spoiled brat in school whose mommy never said no and always got what they wanted, that's jerk, all grown up in a manager's position. Jerk was the type of manager that if he told you to do something, he expected you to do it without any questions. Have plans after work? Jerk expected you to whip out your phone right then and there, cancel your plans, and come into work. Have a doctor's appointment? Jerk expected you to cancel that appointment and then come into work. If you told him no, he would just say in the most condescending tone, "Well, I need you to anyway," and then just stand there scowling at you the whole time, basically trying to intimidate you by making you feel so uncomfortable by the staring until you cave. The setup. Now, I had my fair share of awful managers, to the point where if I didn't need the money, I would have walked out right then and there and never returned. And I had my fair share of good managers. Jerk was somewhere in the middle, leaning more towards the walking out. Now, with me, I'll admit, over the years I developed a sassy, sarcastic personality. I'm blunt, no filter, say what's on my mind, and I don't put up with people's BS. Apparently, Jerk never got the memo of my not taking people's BS. Around this time, summer was ending, meaning we were in the now hiring stage, and many positions were starting to open up in the store. Keep this in mind. What Jerk did to get me to start my pro-revenge. Strike one. I had out-of-patient vein surgery done on one of my legs, and I needed to take a few days off. Since I had some vacation time saved up, I used my hours for those few days that I didn't have to worry so much about not getting paid. Jerk called me a day before I was supposed to come in, asking if I can do a 9 to 1. I asked him 3 times over the phone, "Who's closing?" Because originally, I was supposed to close that day until I got my approval for my days off. Jerk never answered me, so I just figured they had it covered. I come in, and of course halfway through my shift, Jerk calls me over and says that they don't have a closer. Keep in mind that I asked him 3 times over the phone who was closing. Jerk wanted me to clock out to go home for a few hours and then come to work and close. I said no, and then he tried the whole guilt tripping about not having anyone and that we really needed you to do this. I said no because 1, I'm really tired and just came off surgery like 3 days ago. 2, I already made plans with my husband for the evening. Of course, Jerk didn't like this because the next time I came to work, Jerk was just being petty and passive-aggressive with me. Basically, he will either pretend that I'm not there, ignore me, or the transaction that he was doing was taking longer than it should, and then chastise me in front of the customers for taking too long to get to him. When I had my follow-up appointment with the vein doctor, Jerk asked me if I can come earlier. I told him no, I can't, because I have a doctor's appointment in the morning that day. Then he did his usual, "Well, we need you to do it anyway," and started to do that staring with me. Unfortunately for him, I'm used to this when it came to Karens and Kevins trying to intimidate me because something didn't come right. I quickly shut that down by getting the other cashier's attention when they need help with something or quickly grabbed a customer's attention. When I came in after my appointment, Jerk, with a smug grin, very loudly in earshot of the bigwigs from corporate visiting that day. "Well, OP, looks like you noticed that I didn't call you in because we didn't need you." I replied, "Good, because I wasn't able to come in early anyway." Strike 2. Remember how I said that the store had openings? Well, turns out customer service needed some help, and the only way to get there was to ask your manager. So I went to Jerk and asked about being at the customer service desk. With everything that I've already been doing, I was basically the front-end assistant manager without the pay and title. Jerk said that he would get back to me, especially since I've been doing a great job. 2 to 3 weeks later, I'm seeing people that I trained or have started months after I did getting promoted to customer service desk, while I stayed as a cashier with all the other responsibilities piled on top. The customer service desk position would have easily been a 50-cent raise. The monitor position would have been a 75-cent raise. And of course, Jerk didn't want to pay more for doing the exact same things that I was already doing. I was starting to get the message of, why pay for the cow when the milk is free? Strike 3. I was starting to look for another job at this point because I was getting sick and tired of how I was being treated, but I wanted to try and give this guy one last chance. So I found out that the seafood department in my store had an opening, and I even talked to the seafood department manager, Debbie, about me possibly being in her department. He was ecstatic and was willing to work around my college schedule. I had to talk to my manager, Jerk, in order to get the transfer going. I talked to Jerk, and he started to come up with any and all kinds of excuses to not have me transfer. I quickly shot that down, and even the one where he tried to say that I can't because another coworker was transferring, first time I've heard of this, but the coworker said they had no problem with me going. So I thought that was that, right? Wrong. 3 to 4 weeks have passed, and I've been getting nowhere with the whole transferring to the other department. Even Debbie was wondering why it was taking so long to get me to the seafood department and why the manager was dragging their feet with this. Turns out, Jerk blocked my transfer, and they wound up hiring a new employee to the seafood department. Jerk thought that if there were no positions available and he can just deny my transfer, that I have no choice but to stay. After an argument between the two of us about this, because I was calling him out on his BS, Jerk said the magic words, "Just do your job." Cue the malicious compliance. Just do my job? Okay. I was so glad that wearing a mask was required. Otherwise, Jerk might have seen my evil smile when I agreed to just do my job. Need an override? Sorry, but I'm not management, nor am I a monitor, so I can't do that. Let me go grab someone who can. Need change? Sorry, but I'm not management, nor am I a monitor, so I can't do that. Let me go grab someone who can. Jerk was at his wit's end and even tried to write me up for something. I quickly shut that down when I started to recite what being a cashier entails and what my actual job of being a cashier is. And I told him that if he wants me to continue with all of those responsibilities, that he needs to promote me so I can do all of those responsibilities. He quickly stepped back into being his passive-aggressive behavior that I quickly shut down. I eventually found another job with better pay and better benefits and handed in my resignation of me leaving in 10 days. That jerk tried to deny and say, "No, you have to give us 2 weeks' notice." I quickly shut that down with a response. You wouldn't be giving us a 2 weeks' notice if you were going to fire us, or lay us off, or let us go. Just a 2-minute warning. Cue the petty revenge. Now, you're probably wondering what could I have possibly done for the petty revenge, right? Well, there was an old saying, never hurt the golden goose. Well, readers, what do you think happens to a department that is solely dependable on one person whose reputation is Mrs. Reliable? Need me to come in on my day off? Sorry, I can't. I have plans. Need me to stay late? Sorry, I already made plans. Someone called out? Sorry, I can't make it. I did this throughout my entire rest of my stay at that place. Jerk couldn't do anything about it either, and it was starting to get to him on what happens when you rely heavily on someone else but treat them so badly that they actually decide to leave. Jerk's performance, because I wasn't there to cover himself, was starting to take a toll. He had to do so much now of his own responsibilities, and there wasn't a thing he could do to me. He kept trying to be extra passive-aggressive with me, to which I just smiled and waved and said goodbye to everyone but him. Now, this wouldn't be a pro-revenge without the pro-revenge. After talking to a friend of mine about what happened when I worked there, he told me to report this to the district manager because that kind of behavior isn't good for the workplace. Cue the pro-revenge. I got the email address of the district manager from my friend, and then I went back to the store as a customer. I kept in touch with a couple of my old coworkers and kept asking them how things were going and how's work going. None of them had a problem in venting to me on how bad things were getting with Jerk. I asked if they didn't mind if I put their name in the complaint or if they just wanted to be anonymous. A lot of them chose the latter. I whipped out my phone using the quick memo app that I had and I quickly wrote the notes in my phone, the date, and the register that the cashier was on at the time. I sent that email with the attached notes and with the entire account on my part as well to the district manager. Now, this wouldn't be pro-revenge if it just stopped there. I took it a step further. You see, with the receipts that we get, there is a survey on the bottom of every receipt, and management kept trying to boost us to get customers to take the survey because it helped with the story front and all the points that the store gets. Well, here's the thing about the survey. When you fill out the survey, including the comments, everyone gets to see it. And I mean everyone. Jerk, the assistant store manager, the regional manager, the district manager, and the representative of corporate get to all see it. So you can imagine what I did. Need a snack for school? Filled out the survey. Needed groceries? Filled out the survey. I filled out the survey every time. and I made sure to put everything that Jerk was doing on those surveys, including how he treated his employees. 3 months after I left, the person they hired back in seafood to make sure I couldn't go back there quit. 6 months after I left, Jerk was nowhere to be found. A new manager took over for him, and no one seems to know what happened to Jerk. We're going to court? Okay. The setting, United States, northern neck of Virginia. The situation, bought land and built a house on it. Back when my wife and I were much more newlywed than we are now, we hired ourselves an architect and went whole hog on having our cozy little dream home designed. While this was being done, we went shopping around for a parcel of land on which to have it built, which went quickly and easily, and we even got a pretty nice deal on a half-acre lot that was just far enough back in the sticks for us to be happy, but close enough to our jobs that it wasn't much of a commute. Best part of all? No homeowners association. There weren't any active back in that area because, point blank, it was full of poor people back there. Dirt poor country types and working poor wage slave types. We made very sure with our lawyer that no previous owner had ever had the title amended to allow for any HOA nonsense as well, because that's a thing some real estate developers like to do. They'll buy up a property, get the title amended to force the membership of that property into a local HOA that they usually operate or are in cahoots with those that do, and then resell it with that as a new requirement for any prospective buyer to automatically agree to when they sign the title. Flash forward to August of 2019. Lockdown was just around the corner, but nobody knew that yet. Everything was that which passes for normal out in those parts, and my wife and I had since moved to a different location, but retained that property as one of our various rentals. It was our dream home for several years, and we loved that place. Moving was tough. It was a good neighborhood out there, and folks were very welcoming. Then a company that's totally not named Ryan Homes or anything even slightly similar came in and spent some years buying everything up back there that got the market and pressuring folks into selling, which worked out for them only too well. And of course, they gentrified everything. For 3 years and some change, there was massive amounts of the old being torn down and hauled out and the new being built up and sold. The HOA was built right in because of course it was. Folks with money enough to throw down on poorly built houses that looked nice from the front moved in 1 by 1 and 2 by 2. Property values in the area skyrocketed. Property taxes skyrocketed right along with them, and more of the less poor people were forced to sell because they got taxed out of their own homes. My wife and I knew what was coming from the get-go. We knew these jerks from totally not Ryan Homes were going to come sniffing around our way, not to try to buy us out, but to see if they could threaten us into joining the HOA that they were installing. It was inevitable. Lots of information is public record. They knew we had money. They knew we were living below our means by 2 orders of magnitude. They knew we clearly meant to be exactly where we were because we sure didn't have to be. They knew they didn't have a chance of pricing us out on taxes, so they tried nagging us and coming right up to the line on harassment, always to talk to us about joining the HOA. They failed. They got told by one expensive lawyer to find something else to do before we all got super busy helping them find things to worry about. And so they desisted for some years. Then my wife and I moved and got the property set up as a rental. Absolutely not Ryan Homes starts bothering our tenants there, both trying to get them to pressure us into putting the property into the HOA as well as getting our tenants riled up with the most outrageous lies about what could happen if we, the owners, don't protect our renters better. My wife and I were livid after hearing about this crap, and so we got a hold of definitely not Ryan Homes to let them know that this was our formal request that they stop bothering our tenants and that all further communications would be from our really expensive lawyer. They must have assumed we were bluffing, or maybe whoever was in charge of thinking that day didn't show up for work, because they just kept right on with their nonsense. It got so bad that they were even sending fake, but convincing looking envelopes with eviction notice that upon being opened said, "Could be what you find in your mailbox one day without our wondrous HOA," and containing information about the benefits of the HOA. We gathered it all up and got the tenants to talk to our lawyer and got the police involved to get the ball rolling on a harassment investigation. Another formal request to cease and desist was sent to Ryan Homes by the very expensive lawyer, which they utterly ignored. I think their guy that's supposed to come to work and think about things quit a long time ago. Maybe he never told anyone. Maybe nobody noticed. Whatever the situation on their end, when my lawyer talked to their lawyer, their lawyer told my lawyer that their client was doing everything legally and that if we wanted to pursue the matter in court, that was what we would have to do. So we did. I'm not sure what kind of lawyer magic my lawyer and his fellow legal demons worked on this front, but we were in court for 1 single hour when my lawyer and their 4 lawyers and the judge had a private talk about the preliminary hearing. Half hour later, and the lawyers from Ryan Holmes comes back into court looking like a quartet of cats that had been ticked off. My lawyer takes his seat beside me and says they're going to settle. And I was like, I didn't think we were that far along into this yet. What happened? And he said, they built 51 homes in a county of concern over 2 years. Every single one of them was inspected before close of a sale by a real estate agent that never actually got around to getting her home inspector license. And that's how it was that Ryan Holmes, the whole time, paid me 10 grand to not sue them, while they got seriously did over by the county. I got 10 grand in the settlement, which my wife and I gave to the tenants in that property because they deserved it, and we really didn't need it anyway. Am I the jerk for being brutally honest with my infertile sister-in-law? My younger brother has been with wife for about 7 years, 5 dating, 2 married. In the early years, my husband and I put in a lot of effort to get to know her as my brother lived with us and she would be over almost every day. It just never happened. Even when my husband would drive her an hour out of the city to see her parents, sometimes he could barely get 5 words out of her. So we figured she was shy or didn't like us or whatever, and eventually just stopped pushing. When we had our first kid, it was the same deal. The one time she was around our kid for the holidays, she just said she didn't really like kids and walked off, which is fine. They're our spawn. We don't expect others to like them, so we haven't pushed our kids on them. We still invited her and my brother to baby showers and birthdays and events. We have 2 kids now, but always made it clear they didn't have to come if it wasn't their thing, and they never did. My other brother and his husband are child-free, but love being uncles. They come around a lot. They spend a lot of time with our kids. It's great, and we are very lucky. Well, recently, my younger brother and sister-in-law started trying and learned that she is infertile. Obviously, I feel awful for them, as I can't imagine how it would feel. I reached out to my brother about how he wanted us to deal with things going forward, as I'm expecting again, and I didn't want to do anything or invite them to anything that would hurt, even though they never come. Well, my brother said they wanted invites and would be coming to things now. I was a bit surprised, but as he said, they did show up to my youngest's birthday party. It was a disaster. My sister-in-law would not stop nitpicking my husband and I and our kids. Our kids were too loud. I got the wrong food. They needed better manners. They needed better clothes. The kicker was when she kept trying to force my youngest to let her pick her up. She doesn't know her, so she didn't want her to pick her up. She went to my older brother's husband instead. My sister-in-law then declared since my existing kids were brats, she would just be the godmother and best aunt to my expected one, and that they, brother and his husband, could have the others. I told her flat out that my kids aren't brats. They just don't know her, and she doesn't get to play house with my new baby and ignore my other kids under any circumstances if she wants to be an involved family member. She argued with me, so I also told her she had plenty of opportunities to be in our and the kids' lives, and I don't like how she's suddenly bursting in and being rude and controlling. Obviously, I understand her recent fertility news is part of the reason she's acting like this, but I don't think that means she can't be held responsible for her words and actions or act like she's entitled to my kids. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. I thought this was going somewhere very different regarding infertility, but infertility in no way excuses her behavior here. I agree. I am struggling with infertility, and I would never even dream of acting this way. She's being rude and entitled, and I'd be worried about how she's going to treat the new baby if she thinks that the other kids are brats, when it sounds like they're just acting like kids. Not the jerk. I don't think you were being brutally honest. You were simply setting boundaries and calling her out on her behavior, like an adult should. You said absolutely the right thing. You need to be firm with her. Yes, infertility is hard. I'm now past the point where I could have had some kind of help to conceive. I've known since I was 18 that I would need help. Whatever she's finding difficult, that doesn't excuse her from minimum standards of behavior. You are so not the jerk. You are a gutsy mom. Entitled parents think I'm not normal because I'm not what they expected. And so they hate me. I, 26 female, come from an average South Asian family. Being born a female means you're either married with kids or still living with your parents at this age. I'm the latter. My parents have been told by my extended family that they're the best parents in the world because my extended family as adults are jerks, basically. So my parents really take it to heart and are convinced that they are indeed the best parents in the world. I agree that they had gone through a rough time raising us. We're a group of 5, 3 girls and 2 boys, so it couldn't have been easy. And we're all nice kids as well. But they're very concerned that we're not doing the conventional, stereotypical South Asian kids thing like everyone else, so they believe they're still perfect. It's only that we're not normal. I'm the main target because I have my own life. I've never had a romantic relationship because I like being alone better. I didn't become a doctor like they wanted me to. I follow international relations and gender studies instead. Instead of kids, I have cats, whom I love like one would love their kids. Instead of getting a husband, I'm career-focused and pursuing education. And worst of all, when they try to control and subjugate me, I fight back. When they compare me to others, I compare them with the parents of the person/people they're comparing me to. I earn my own money and spend it on things I love, mostly my cats. I am a writer and I am a reader and I am a fighter. For them, all of this is just not normal. There's something wrong with me because I don't fit into the mold that they created, and me not fitting in would essentially take their best parents title away. But my father doesn't speak to his kids like they're humans. I pointed out that I didn't like the way he speaks to me, so he said I was disrespectful. My mother likes to imagine I don't exist and pretends not to hear me. She has sharp ears to catch if it's something about them, but if I'm talking about a concern, she pretends not to hear me. But still, they believe they are the best parents in the world and that there's something inherently wrong with all of their kids. Edit. Wow, I wrote this out of sadness and frustration yesterday night, and I woke up to see it as blown up. Thank you everyone for your kind words, but I think there's a few things to clarify. Sorry that I didn't mention clearly. 1. I do not have a degree in gender studies. I have a degree in social statistics, which can get me a job anywhere else but here. I work as a math teacher. I'm interested in gender studies, but I went to a public university thanks to free education we have here, and I was selected for social statistics, and my university didn't let me study anything else. Selecting your majors isn't simple here, especially if college is free. Also, for free higher education, you need to pass your GCSEs with good results, and I only did enough to get me into the social statistics degree. Karen demands I lower the child support I receive from my ex. My daughter's dad, male 25, and his fiancée, female 28, want me to lower the child support that I receive. My daughter, who's 3, lives with me, female 23, and I go through the state for child support. They stated that the original amount he was approved for was too much and dropped down to half of that. I was fine with it at first. It would help pay for childcare fees and school supplies, and I've supported her solely by myself for 2 years now. I didn't get paid for the first or second month yet, and when the state started pulling from his checks, they complained that it was too much. They want to go down again to help save for the wedding. I feel conflicted because I'm happy that he's happy, but as a single mother, it's been a struggle. I don't ask for money from them at all, and they do not want her full-time either, which I'm fine with. My daughter means everything to me. They want to make an appointment to lower the amount, and I don't have the money at this moment for a lawyer to argue it. They both make twice the amount I do, so I don't understand the big deal. For additional context, I live alone with my daughter. He's engaged to my cousin, and they do not give me any information about where she's going with them and do not ask for her or call her outside of his weekends. Not the jerk. Your cousin chose to marry a man that already has a kid. Your ex is responsible for supporting his kid. Do not lower the child support. Your expenses will continue to rise. If you give in to this pair now, wait until they have a kid. They will double down trying to get you to reduce the child support because now they have a kid of their own to pay for. OP. The fiancé does have a kid already, and although I understand that kids are expensive, he does so much more for that kid than I've ever seen him do for his daughter. What worries me the most is that she works for the county that we live in, and I'm always living in fear that they'll use something against me. But this is the most affordable living area that the state offers. No, not the jerk. OP, he wants to keep his kid's food money to pay for a party. You should be asking for more, not letting him give less. Not the jerk. This money is for the well-being of your kid. You say that you struggle. You're struggling because he wants to be a deadbeat and not provide the financial support his kid needs and deserves. A wedding is a party. You do not leave a kid in need because you want a fancy, expensive party. Keep going through this state and insist on whatever the authorities consider appropriate. Your kid's father is a jerk for thinking that a party is more important than his kid. Well, what do you think? Should OP lower the child support or not? Please let us know.
I think she should get more, to be honest. Few things irk me more than deadbeats who don't want to take care of their kids.
Am I the jerk for letting my daughter wear a tiara to my cousin's wedding? I'm 32, female, and my daughter, Chloe, who's 4, has a fascination with princesses. She loves the color pink, wears only dresses, and has an array of tiaras she wears everywhere except at preschool where she can't, but she does have it in her backpack. My cousin, 33, male, Alex, fake name, invited us to his wedding, which was this past Saturday. Chloe was excited because she got to dress up and stay dressed up the entire time. She also couldn't wait to see the bride's dress. She asked if she could wear her princess tiara, and I said of course. We got to the wedding on time. However, the start time was delayed for unknown reasons. 15 minutes after it was supposed to start, one of the bridesmaids came out and told me that the bride, Jen, who's 31, female, was refusing to come out because my daughter was wearing a tiara. I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. Apparently, the bride was also wearing a tiara and wanted to be the only one wearing it. I told the bridesmaid that Chloe loves tiaras and always wears them. The bridesmaid said, "Not today she isn't," and told me it needed to be removed. I said no. The bride is a grown woman and was being petty over a kid's tiara. The bridesmaid left for a couple minutes, and then Alex himself came out. He told me to leave. I asked why, and he said because I won't tell Chloe to take off the tiara. I said this was ridiculous, and Alex said it's not my wedding, and when I get married, then Chloe can wear one to mine, but that I'm officially uninvited regardless. Others around me told me to just take it off, and I wouldn't. Alex's mom came over and escorted us out. Chloe was upset and crying because she feels she did something wrong, and I'm upset because I can't believe someone would be jealous over a literal 4-year-old. I also feel bad because Chloe was really looking forward to seeing Jen's dress because she loves wedding dresses. But literally, no one is on my side. Am I the jerk? Edit. Someone asked if my cousin has an illness. I said no, but the bride has Asperger's, and they said that's important for you all to know. You seriously need to parent up and teach your kid that there's a time and a place for indulging your inner princess and a time and a place for sitting back, following dress codes, and letting other people shine. For example, at their own wedding. You were asked nicely, but you were petulant and entitled. You caused this. It's not over a kid, it's over your lack of parenting. There's a reason nobody is on your side. You're the jerk. I agree with this. 4-year-olds should be taught time and a place for attire. She didn't wear a tiara to preschool, as mentioned by the OP, so a wedding is also a specific occasion. I personally would find it cute if I were the bride, but everyone is different, I guess. I think the bride's wishes, while over the top here, should be respected. Yeah, wedding conventions are stupid, so it's a frequent gray area here. But no one's saying OP's a jerk for thinking the bride is being extra. She's a jerk for digging in her heels for no good reason, refusing to teach her daughter an age-appropriate lesson about etiquette, and ruining her daughter's day on top of upsetting the bride. I'd bet they were quick to yeet her because stuff like this is part of a larger pattern. I honestly think everyone sucks here. I legit wouldn't care if a 4-year-old had on a tiara at my wedding. I also would not refuse to tell my daughter she had to take off the tiara if the bride sent someone out to tell me that the bride refused to walk down the aisle as long as she was wearing it. The daughter now feels guilty and had to miss the wedding she was all excited for, which is a really crappy position to have put her in, OP. Sorry, but you're the jerk. Yes, it was absolutely over-the-top idiotic for the bride to obsess over a 4-year-old wearing a tiara, but once she told you to take it off, you should have removed it. She's the bride, it's her party. She makes the rules. Yes, your daughter would have been disappointed, but I guess she was even more disappointed to miss the whole event. Your daughter is literally a 4-year-old kid, for goodness sake. How insecure must the bride be that she feels threatened by something like this? On the other hand, you could have handled the matter delicately and asked Chloe to remove the tiara to diffuse the situation. I think that would have been much, much better than letting them escort you out. For everyone. I'm going with everyone sucks here. Edit. Next time you know that the bride has Asperger's, mention it in the post maybe, because this makes you the jerk in the situation. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the bride? Please let us know. So, you need a man to do all of that? Okay. Context. Since I, male 28, was 11, my parents have been divorced. My mother, female 64, got custody, and we would see our father one weekend every 2 weeks. I also have a little sister, female 25, so I ended up being the only man in the house. Growing up, our mother always taught us that we needed to participate in house duties, such as washing the dishes, taking out the laundry, preparing food. We would take turns, and during the week, us kids would take care of all of that because our mother would come back from work exhausted and expected to not have anything to do once at home. And we kind of were okay with that, only that as we were young, we would sometimes, often, forget to do stuff, and it would cause a fight. But we ended up learning to not forget. Only there are some tasks that wouldn't be fairly distributed. My mother always needed a man close so that she could give him some work to do. And even though she never remarried and only dated 1 or 2 men after she divorced, she always found some male friend or some friend's husband or boyfriend to whom she could ask for help. Until at some point, people started to realize that she was being close to them for the only purpose that she could ask them for help. Yeah, she's one of those tit-for-tat persons, where if she does something for you, you have to give back something equivalent or you disappear from her life. So basically, she lost a few friends. But at some point, I was old enough to be useful, and she started asking me for help on these matters. OP, the internet box doesn't work anymore. Can you look it up? It needs a man's brain to understand that. OP, I bought some furniture from IKEA. Can you build it for me? It needs a man's brain to understand that. OP, can you carry luggage? Only a strong man can do that. OP, can you look up why my computer is being so slow? It needs a man's brain to understand that. And so on. I asked repeatedly that she looked at how I dealt with these things so that she could understand herself and fix it alone next time, especially when it was something so basic as to restart the internet box. But she didn't want to learn. She just wanted me to do it because she didn't want to have to deal with it herself. And it went on for a few years, growing from just restarting the box to piercing into walls so that she could hang mirrors and stuff. For info, I never did any of all of that before she asked me to do it, so I guess it made me learn it, which was a good thing. But what bothered me was that she just didn't care and expected me to do all that because it was normal, and me knowing about it or not was not a question. I am a man, so that's my job. And as I was growing up, and her still not learning anything, I got more and more frustrated. Until this one final time, I don't remember what specific task it was, where she told me that it was a man's job, needing a man's brain. I had a huge sigh, did the job, then went back to my business. Cue the malicious compliance. As some tasks require a man's brain, it's obvious that some others require a woman's touch, as we men are all about technique, big thinking, and strength work. So the following days, I started to wash the dishes and put them back anywhere in the kitchen, because, us men have no idea about what goes where in the house. We just fix things and carry heavy stuff. I forgot to get food back in the fridge because, that's already cooked, so it won't spoil. I overcooked my steaks, eggs, pizza, because, I was so busy thinking about all this technique stuff that I didn't have the brain space to think about checking food. Laundry would be spread out to dry, one piece onto another, because it is more efficient as it saves space. And about cleaning the house, let's just say it was a waste of time because I could perfectly live in my own mess. Of course, it didn't take long for my mother to get angry at me for not taking care of the house, or for doing it so stupidly. To which I answered, sorry, it needs a woman's brain to understand how to take care of a house correctly, which yes, is total BS. But so is saying that all the work she made me do was only for men. So at first she was dumbfounded, then the storm unleashed. It still is one of the biggest fights we've ever had to this day. Things calmed down and I went back to caring properly, until she asked for my man's brain again. From this point, I stopped caring. I would forget the laundry in the washing machine, let the dishes pile up in the sink, and would only do my man job. She would still get really angry, ordering me to do stuff, which I would ultimately do, completely half-effortly, meaning that she had to do it all over after me because half of the dishes were just out on the kitchen, not at their place. Laundry was all stuck together to dry and so on. Mood in the house was tense, and it wouldn't need much for a fight to blow up. Until at some point, she asked me to help her do this or that, not to do it for her anymore. So I helped. I showed her how to do it. I took time for it. We did it together multiple times until she finally learned how to do it. I then started taking care of my duties as I did before, and things went back to normal, finally. Am I the jerk for threatening to call the cops at a party? 8 years ago, I wrecked my motorcycle and had my right leg amputated above the knee. I get around fine with a good quality prosthetic leg. My friends helped me a lot right after the incident when I was really depressed. They're great guys, but they can be a little childish and frat bro types. I love them and they literally saved my life, but I've definitely matured more than some of them. One of my oldest friends, we'll call him Jay, just bought a new house and wanted to host a Super Bowl party. 2 of the guests are guys I know well, the rest are distant acquaintances. Well, my stump is itching like crazy. By now, we've all had a few drinks and everyone is pretty into the game, so I discreetly remove my prosthesis and prop it up on the couch next to me. Later on, one of the guys I don't know well sees it. He asks if he can look at the prosthesis. I say sure. He messes with it for a bit and then starts joking that he's going to pawn it. How much do you think I can get for this cyborg leg, etc.? I'm laughing along until he moves it to the other side of the room. Without it or a mobility aid, I'm a sitting duck, so it makes me real nervous when it's out of reach. He says he's not done looking at it and goes to get another drink. When he comes back, I tell him it's not funny, I need it back. He holds it out about 10 feet away and says, "Come get it." Now, I'm not about to hop over and arm wrestle this guy for it, so I pull out my phone, make eye contact with Jay and say, "Either your friend gives my leg back or I'm calling the cops." The room went silent. The guy handed me my leg back and said, "Jeez, man, I was just messing around." I left pretty shortly after. I was heated and the mood was awkward. Still, I didn't think that I was the jerk until Jay texted me saying that I overreacted. Now I feel like a jerk because I know I did ruin his party and yelled at his friend in his house. Jay pointed out I wasn't going anywhere, so I went off for no real reason. He's right. I wasn't going anywhere and didn't need it for any reason except that I get anxious when I can't get to it. It's part of my body at this point, and I can't walk without it, so yeah, I'm a little attached. Asking my other 2 friends, one said that I was out of line, the other said I was justified. Looking for a tiebreaker vote. Not the jerk. Holding your leg hostage to mess with you is far from okay. Forget that guy. Any person who saw that interaction and thinks that you were in the wrong is not a friend. They should all be ashamed of themselves. Not a jerk 1,000 times over. 100% not the jerk. In a similar story, I was at a party as a teen and a friend wanted to check out my new glasses. I get it. My lenses are kind of thick and no one ever sees me without my glasses because I can't see without them. I let him try them on, and after laughing about how terrible they were, he got up and left the room, saying he was going home with them. I can't see without glasses, and they were expensive. I literally could be 5 feet away from my husband, and without my glasses, I couldn't tell if he was a dude or a chick. And that jerk just laughed and ran off with them. I waited a minute, like, haha, very funny, but he didn't come back, and I couldn't chase him down because I couldn't see him. Everyone is a vague pinkish blur. I texted the host and said if my glasses weren't back on my face in 1 minute, I was calling the cops. The glasses are $600 with insurance. Got told I was overreacting, but as soon as I started to dial, bam, someone dragged the jerk back in and gave me my glasses back and made him apologize. Messing with people's medical aids is one of the biggest jerk moves someone can pull. You are definitely not the jerk, but you need better friends. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his friends? Please let us know. I've never understood how friends can think it's okay to just blatantly disrespect you. Maybe that's part of the reason I don't have any. At least you got me, Karen. Don't remind me. Am I the jerk for refusing to change my son's chosen first and middle name per my brother-in-law's request? So, my wife, female 32, and I, male 31, struggled with infertility for a while. My wife's now 7 months pregnant with a baby boy. We started searching for a first and middle name, and since I come from Irish origins, we decided to settle on my great-uncle's first name and my grandfather's middle name. We told my in-laws about it, My brother-in-law, a doctor with a superiority complex, thought the name was awesome. Unbeknownst to us, he and his wife decided to basically take not just the first, but the middle name and use them for their son, who was born 3 weeks ago. I was not pleased, and I hated that they basically stole the names, but my wife and I decided to ignore them and just keep the names. We didn't make a fuss out of it until my brother-in-law called to ask about the new names we chose. I told him we're still sticking with the original first and middle names we chose. He sounded confused, saying we no longer have a right to these names after he and his wife claimed them, and said it was strange that we're still planning on using them. I laughed and said that they didn't claim crap. Fact of the matter is, he and his wife stole those names from us and should deal with it. He got mad and demanded I put my wife on the phone, but we were both already on speaker, and my wife backed me up 100%. Brother-in-law then hung up and did 2 things. 1, send his family, father-in-law, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, etc., to come at me specifically. And 2, send long lists of first and middle name suggestions, demanding we choose from them and leave him and his family alone. My wife got into a fight with him just a day ago and told him he and his wife didn't even choose those names out of love, but out of spite to stick it to me for no reason. Father-in-law came over in the evening and started yelling at me, accusing me of turning his daughter against her brother, calling me a pity jerk, and claiming I own neither of those names despite having familial ties with. I said if I don't own those names, then his doctor son sure as heck doesn't. I told him to leave, but he kept arguing till I said I'd call the police. He left then, but is now getting mother-in-law constantly calling my wife, telling her to do the right thing if she still wants a relationship with her nephew. The conflict gets worse, and my wife's caving in and cracking under pressure. I keep refusing to change the name. So Reddit, am I the jerk here? Not the jerk. He basically said, hey, I like what you're doing, so I'm gonna, and you can't. That's not how the world works. Also, that family sounds messed up, man. OP. Exactly, and pretty much sums up my brother-in-law's attitude. No one says anything because, hey, he's a doctor and deserves respect and grace for being a hardworking man. In which case, this should be your hill to die on, and they're also going to be treating your impending baby in the same condescending manner. Tell mother-in-law and father-in-law that they're being put in a timeout, and they should ask themselves if they care about their future relationship with their other grandchild. Not the jerk. Y'all need to send a message to your in-laws that you're launching a cooling-off period of X days in which you will not be accepting communication from them. After that, the topic of names will not be mentioned, and each infraction will be met with radio silence. First infraction, 1 week. Second, 2 weeks. Third, 4 weeks. You need to make clear the subject is closed and that stupidity has consequences. When are they going to put out more breakfast soup? Was reminded of this today. Happened years ago. A regular stops me at a rather expensive buffet brunch place. We had breakfast and lunch stuff. Light stuff and heavy stuff. You could get a fruit crepe at the same time as raw oysters on the half shell, steak tips, scrambled eggs, and a Belgian waffle. Then follow it up with cocktail shrimp and a blueberry muffin. A rather large selection. A selection that did not include breakfast soup. Hey, excuse me, when are they going to put out more breakfast soup? Breakfast? I'm sorry, what? We don't offer any kind of breakfast soup. Of course you do. I get it every time, but you're all out right now. I just want to know if you'll put it out more soon. Ma'am, could you come with me and point out where the breakfast soup is? Then I can help you better. Fine. It's right over here. She then walks me to the line and points to the tray that normally has our hamburgers with mushroom gravy on top. Except we mixed half and half, 70-30 ground beef with pork sausage to make these patties. These very, very fatty, greasy patties. And we lined the pan with bread slices to soak up all of the fat and grease, and then laid out all the patties on the bread, and then covered them with mushroom sausage gravy. And even with the bread, by the time most of the patties were gone, the bread was almost swimming. Turns out, this lady didn't like the burger part, and she was just scooping fat-soaked soggy bread, hot liquid pork grease, and mushroom sausage gravy into a bowl, and just eating that with a spoon, aka her breakfast soup. I tried to very gently and not judgmentally explain that the bread was for soaking up the fat and grease from the burger patties and normally was not eaten. I'll never forget her look of horror and embarrassment when she realized she had been eating essentially the fatty trash of this particular dish and absolutely loving it. I did tell her more would be out shortly, but she zipped it back to her table without another word, face turned completely red. It was 6 months before any of us saw her again. She apparently chose to forego the breakfast soup after that. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay the babysitter for new glasses after my daughter broke her old ones? I'll preface this by saying that I, male 35, am a widower with 2 kids who are 9 and 11. I recently got back to work, and since I work night shifts, I had to get the kids a babysitter. They're at school during the day, and my sister stays with them. I was able to find a babysitter with the help of a coworker. Actually, they're related, and things have been going pretty well, except for a few days ago. The babysitter called me while I was at work to tell me that my 9-year-old daughter broke her glasses. I got home, heard both sides of the story, and came to a conclusion that it was in fact an accident. But the babysitter said my daughter broke them intentionally after she refused to let her go outside late in the evening. I asked my 11-year-old daughter, and she said that the babysitter's story is accurate, but since she and her sister have a beef then, I figured she lied to set her sister up. My 9-year-old daughter cried and said she didn't mean it and it was an accident. I apologized to the babysitter for the misunderstanding, but she insisted there was no misunderstanding and then asked me to pay her for a pair of new glasses. I was taken aback by her request and told her I thought we talked this out and rolled it out as an accident, but she insisted it wasn't an accident. I apologized but refused and said it was unfair to expect me to pay, especially since she didn't pay attention to keep her glasses safe regardless of whether it was an accident or not. The babysitter argued with me and then started crying, swearing that my daughter broke them to get back at her. My 11-year-old daughter sided with her, but my 9-year-old said she is only siding with the babysitter for her own benefits. The girls started fighting, and I ended up telling the babysitter to leave. She got my coworker involved, and she said that I should take responsibility and pay the babysitter for new glasses since she cannot afford them being a broke college student and is in need for glasses. I apologized but refused to pay. My coworker got upset and shamed me for condoning my younger daughter's actions and treating the babysitter poorly when she's the victim in this situation. It's been days, and the babysitter is still wanting me to pay for new glasses, but I feel like she's trying to use the fact that I'm in dire need of help and is hoping to get extra money out of my pocket. You're the jerk. It doesn't matter if it was an accident or not. Your kid broke her glasses. You need to pay to replace them. You're the jerk. You are actually legally responsible for accidents as well as deliberate breakages that happen on your property to people you have employed. Quite apart from that, you are teaching your daughter that her actions have no consequences if she didn't mean it. Your coworker is right, and even your 11-year-old daughter can see this. Grow up, take responsibility, and make good the damage. If you don't, I hope she sues you, because she would win. You're the jerk. Do you even hear yourself? Whether it was an accident or not is irrelevant. However, in this case, it seems more likely that your younger daughter is lying because she's afraid of being in trouble. What is relevant is that your daughter was involved in breaking the babysitter's medically necessary equipment while she was working for you. I suspect this is not the only example in your life when you've tried to weasel out of paying for something you should be responsible for. Just pay for the new glasses already. If your babysitter is still babysitting for you while you do this to her, I hope she wises up and stops. Babysitters are a valuable resource, and this one is making it possible for you to earn your living. Am I the jerk for canceling my wedding because my family and my in-laws wouldn't shut up about it? I'm being called a bridezilla left and right about this, and my fiance is being called names for apparently doing as I say, despite that being a mutual decision. My family and my fiance's family have tried to have a say at our wedding in every aspect possible. How many guests we will invite, who we will invite, what kind of suit my fiance will wear, what kind of wedding dress I'll wear, what kind of venue we will book, what kind of food we will have, what kind of music we'll have, what song we will dance to. Everything we've planned, our families always judge and are unpleased and always have something negative to say. Planning our wedding has been more stressful and less fun for that reason. I feel like I can't have the wedding I want to have because they'll find a way to ruin it. At this point, I don't enjoy any of it, and neither does my fiance. We tried to make our boundaries clear with our family several times, and they'd get mad and somehow got worse whenever we tried to set boundaries. My fiance and I both decided we will not have our wedding and we will just go to the courthouse with our two best friends as witnesses. And that's it. No parties, no venues, no receptions. Just us with our dream dress and suit with our two best friends. And after that, we'll book a restaurant to have some dinner with our 10 closest friends. That's all. Our families are controlling with the guilt tripping. Even my sisters, who used to remain neutral and even supported me sometimes, are now saying I'm taking it too far and that I'm manipulating my fiance about this too. They keep insulting us and telling us to change our decision. We demanded an apology from their behavior and then we might have our wedding, but they refused to see why they should apologize. We said we stand firm. Am I the jerk? Edit. Many people are asking who's paying. Our parents are helping us a lot financially, but we are also paying. Our parents use the financial support as a way to control our decisions. We wouldn't stand for that. They shouldn't offer to pay if they couldn't respect that the final decisions would be our own. For example, my in-laws refused to pay for the dress I picked because it was beige and not white. Our parents demanded we uninvite friends of ours to make room for relatives and friends of their own, and many other things. Not the jerk. We had our dream elopement. It was fantastic, best decision ever. Dressed up how we wanted, had a photographer. It was great. The best wedding is having total control. Hate when families hold their contribution over your head. Either help or don't help, but do not dictate if you are going to help. You're not allowed to be in pain because you're scaring your grandma. So I was working for about 7 hours yesterday. I'm 16, and I had a really tough day. I work at a grocery store, and I was the only CC, my position, for about 3 hours. On a Saturday afternoon, for perspective, we need at least 3 CCs to keep up with all the work that needs to be done on Saturday afternoons, and I was the only one. So the work of 3 people fell to me. That's all the bagging, all the getting carts, the cleaning, everything. It was all on me. And it's the day before Valentine's, so we were even busier than normal. Oh, and it never got above 5 degrees Fahrenheit, and the wind chill kept us negative all day. All in all, I ended up spending over 2 hours outside, pushing carts like there was no tomorrow. The time I spent inside was mostly bagging for 2 or 3 people at once. So, as you can imagine, I was exhausted when I got home. I laid down in front of the fireplace and didn't move for about 10 minutes. My mom gets down beside me and tries to get me to stand up. She tells me that I'm scaring my grandma, who was staying the night at our place. My dad walks over, upset as heck, and practically screams at me to get up. I tell him, truthfully, that I physically can't move. He doesn't care. So I pull myself up, trying desperately not to pass out, and try to go upstairs to take a shower. Only after all of this do they bother to ask me what's wrong. I tell them, I feel like I broke my back. My mom tells me that if this is what I'm going to act like when I get home from work, that I need to quit. I tell her that this is pretty unusual, even for a Saturday before a holiday. For those of you wondering, there were multiple CCs scheduled for that afternoon, but the one that would have been working with me when I was alone got snowed in at a ski resort with no cell service, so she couldn't make it. She couldn't even call anyone, so she got marked as a no-show, no-call. That upset me because she texted me via Wi-Fi and I passed all that information on to the manager. So now I'm sore as heck and I'm pretty upset at the manager. Lucky me. Edit. For those of you saying that I'm working too hard, you're right, but I'm doing the work because they need me to do it. It's called work ethic. I'm not doing it because I'm getting paid through the roof. I'm doing it because I care. Working hard enough to be in this much pain shouldn't be cause for insult. Edit 2. Guys, I got a ton of people thinking that I'm complaining about the work. I get that it was too much for me to handle, and I get that the manager was being a jerk for not giving me at least a little help. But I'm not complaining about it. It's work. Sometimes there's tough days, and sometimes there's easy ones. Also, this absolutely blew up, so there's no way I can respond to everybody. But thank you for all of the support. I really appreciate it. And by the way, my back is fine. I just needed a few days of nothing to recover. Karen pushes unsolicited diet advice onto me, so I showed off my abs to her. Last Saturday, I, 30 male, was meeting my girlfriend's, who's 25 female, friends for the first time. Since I'm currently in the middle of an intense weightlifting program, I'm eating a crazy amount. My girlfriend, being the champion she is, decided that we could go to a nice all-you-can-eat buffet in our city for lunch with her friends. We met in front of the restaurant where she introduced me to her friends, 2 women and 1 man. About 30 minutes into lunch, the conversation turned to fitness and nutrition because someone had asked what I was interested in. Around that time, I got my third full plate of ham, chicken, veggies, and a big bowl of macaroni because I could. I mean, I grew up with some serious food insecurity. If I'm going to spend $60 to eat at a buffet, I'm going to be the reason the buffet doesn't cost $50 instead. Around this time, one of our friends, a nutritionist, told me I was eating way too much. I honestly thought this crossed the line, because who the heck says something like that at a buffet of all places? I responded by assuring her that I was lifting really hard and trying to gain weight. This apparently was interpreted as an open invitation to give me more unsolicited advice, so she continued that I was going to put on a lot of body fat and overstress my organs eating like that all the time. Plus, I couldn't put muscle mass on that quickly anyway. I let her rant run its course, thinking it would be over soon, but she kept pushing the issue every time I said I was fine. This easily went on for 5 minutes while everyone else was talking about other stuff. Eventually, I got tired of it, stood up, and pulled up my t-shirt to show my abs. I told her I had been eating like this for several months and if she could show me where I was getting metabolic syndrome. She then continued debating about how I probably had a lot of visceral fat, 32-inch waist, and that she was only trying to help. Again, I told her I was fine and kept eating. Finally, the other people at the table remembered we existed and there was a lot of awkward silence. Well, yesterday, my girlfriend approached me and said her friends don't like me very much. We had already argued about this on Saturday after we all left, and I told her what I did was absolutely reasonable considering the circumstances. Now she's giving me these cryptic messages about how much she values her friends and how she has known them longer than she has known me. I'm afraid I overstepped a line, but was I really wrong here? Not the jerk. Your girlfriend should be mad at her friend that doesn't know when to drop the subject. Right? I would be mortified if my friend was badgering my boyfriend like that, especially when the first time meeting him. Badgering anyone like that, she showed herself to be a harassive, know-it-all jerk. Like so many dietitians, sorry to the good ones, but I've only met pushy ones. Dietitian at lunch with friends about me ordering meat, sauce, and asking for vegetables and salad. No carbs? That's not a healthy meal. Me. My doctor recommended cutting carbs to fix some health problems. X told me that you live in Y area. That's a lovely place. How long have you lived there? Her. You really should see a dietitian about that instead of listening to a doctor. Me. I'm good, thanks. X told me that you have kids. What age are they? Her. Doctors know nothing about healthy food. That's my area, and I can treat at family and friends' price. Me. Thanks, that's nice, but I'll stay with my doctor's advice. Turning to someone else and trying to ask them something, only to be cut off by the dietitian again, telling me to order potatoes or pasta to get a healthy meal. Me. My diet has made me lose 30 kilograms in 6 months. My fibromyalgia isn't even showing. I sleep at night. I have energy and I feel happy. It's working for me, so I don't need advice. Her getting angry about me pushing keto. You shouldn't push your diet on everyone else. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or the nutritionist? Please let us know. Bruh, your girlfriend's friends sound whack. Tried to throw me under the proverbial bus, ended up totally backfiring on her. I was building an online training module at work that is intended to teach existing users how to work a new process. It has interactive elements, quizzes, segments to work through for a few sample scenarios, etc. Now, we had recently got a new associate director who, from what I can tell, advanced through the company by throwing other people under the bus. She gets promoted not for her own merits, but because at the end of the day, she has had less mud sticking to her than the other applicants. It's uncanny to the point that there simply had to be more to it than stupid office politics. I'll get to that in a bit. So, after I have the first draft of the module done, it gets sent out for the usual round of testing, and there are of course a couple things that need to be corrected. I build the module off the notes the subject matter experts leave me, and a few things inevitably get lost in translation. But this new associate director just rips it to shreds, complaining that it's completely incomprehensible, needs to go into much greater detail, asking questions about nearly every individual mouse click in the sample scenarios, and overall stating that it's impossible to follow. The thing is, this module is intended for our finance department, for people who have a background in finance and have already been trained on how to use our internal software. She is a training services associate director with a teaching background. The module isn't supposed to make sense to a former middle school social studies teacher. It's supposed to make sense to people with finance degrees. I push back and try explaining this to her in a million different ways, but she's having none of it. So I have to go back to the subject matter experts with her 20 pages worth of criticism. And at first, they think I'm joking. I had to forward her email before they finally believed me. So for the next 2 weeks, we're going over every nuance, including readdressing everything that was covered during their 3-week classroom training. How to set up their network drives, how to set up Outlook, including things as nuanced as, if you don't know how to set up your email signature, click here. I mean, really basic stuff that has nothing to do with what the module was originally supposed to teach. But I now had to include it all because our new associate director couldn't find the on switch if you staple their finger to it. This wastes my time, the subject matter expert's time, and time spent re-recording all the voice work. If you've done voice work in the past, you know you never get it done in one take. After it's all done, I send it back out for review and approval, and the associate director simply doesn't respond. A week passes. The finance director takes an interest in why this module is almost a month overdue. I go to forward the associate director's email again, except now I can't find it. Odd, seeing as how I have a hoarding problem when it comes to email. I check with one of the subject matter experts I was working with. He can't find it either. Turns out none of us can. It's gone. So I check with a friend of mine in IT who, after a little detective work, discovers that a week ago someone did a compliance delete on the Exchange server. This basically is a seek and destroy for messages meeting certain criteria. In this case, a specific phrase she used in her email. I start digging through Outlook, trying to find particular emails related to this that might be used to defend my actions, and they're all gone. Inbox, sent items, deleted items, every last one of them. Any email containing that particular phrase anywhere in it. This kind of thing is normally used by admins to mass delete spam or phishing emails from all users at once. Except in this case, someone apparently deleted emails that showed evidence of her awful decisions. My friend in IT can smell a juicy story a mile away and was very interested in seeing where this went. She recovered the deleted emails, and I promptly saved them to a flash drive. For the next few days, every time I had any email with this associate director's name on it, even unrelated stuff, you never know how something might fit together, I saved a copy to the flash drive. I informed the subject matter experts to do the same, and we started building our offline evidence locker. I didn't want to blow the lid on it just yet. I wanted to see if my suspicions were correct. Maybe a lifetime of watching spy movies and cop dramas had corrupted my thinking. Maybe there was another explanation. Who knows? It could happen. I'm not God. I don't know everything. I'll play defense. So after several weeks in total trying to appease this associate director's unquenchable thirst for irrelevant details, and then getting ignored for a week, she finally publishes it and sends it to the finance director to approve so it can go live. Woo! Except the module, which was supposed to be a 30-minute online course, now contained 3 hours of content and went down several irrelevant rabbit holes that had been deemed critical supporting information. As an analogy, imagine designing a training module to teach a nurse how to enter some new CPT codes and being told you have to teach him how to read too, because he might not know what words are. That's how much BS was rammed into this thing. And the finance director, of course, hated it and was surprised that such a rambling mess of a module would come from me of all people. So he calls a meeting with me and the associate director on Tuesday to get some answers, and sure enough, she immediately tried to distance herself from it. Tried to paint it as she made a couple suggestions, and I clearly went way overboard. How I must have sent her a different version than she approved and switched them afterwards. That's not even possible. It would get thrown back into a draft status. She kept trying to talk over me as I voiced my defense. And to his credit, the finance director finally just muted her so I could speak. And boy did I. I explained everything. I shared my screen, popped in my flash drive, and opened my copies of the emails that had supposedly been deleted. Every email exchange where she complained about the material, I pushed back, and she flat out ordered me to build the module in the way I did. She abruptly left the meeting and went offline. The finance director asked if I could send him a copy of all relevant files, and as I did so, I told him they might not be there later. and then explained what I had learned about someone in IT using the compliance delete. He assures me he'll look into it, and the crap immediately hit the fan. The associate director never logged back on. There was a massive internal audit where people from her previous departments were asked to provide statements. Leadership tried to keep it hush-hush, but you just can't keep something that big under wraps. I don't know the specific what's and how's, but the associate director and one of the IT managers had both left the company to pursue the next stage of their careers, and we sincerely wish them the best. I don't really do the social media thing, but over the next few days, as the rumor mill did what rumor mills do, I heard their crap absolutely blew up, and it came out that the associate director and that IT manager were having an affair. Now this all went down about a month ago, but as I wrote this post, I thought to check online court records. Both are now facing divorces, filed by their respective spouses. So yeah, there's a void in my direct leadership, in IT's leadership, and the entire IT department is getting a shakedown by information security to determine if there were any other leaks. I spent some time reflecting on why this whole series of events happened, and my best guess is she wanted to make a grand entrance by spearheading this masterwork training module that covered every possible scenario and contained any and all information anyone could possibly want. Then, as she started to realize how wasteful, rambling, and unnecessary it was, she realized that her grand entrance would be a grand faceplant. So she tried to erase the evidence and pin all the nonsense on me to save face, but inadvertently set in motion the events that would expose her little arrangement with the IT manager. As someone who frequently has to watch training modules for work, I appreciate nothing more than a short and to-the-point presentation. Being told to watch a 3-hour training video for 30 minutes of relevant information would make me rethink my career choices. This, however, was quite enjoyable to read. Thanks for sharing. My boss demanded I serve all customers and fill all shelves, no matter how far past closing hours it was. So my first job I ever worked at for a few years was a grocery retail store with several different departments, including a deli for lunch meat and cheese, which is where I worked. One night I was working 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. 9 p.m. is when the deli and other special departments closed, and we're expected to be done and clocked out, but the rest of the store remained open 24/7 for general groceries. It was me and one other guy. We had an especially busy night, and we were a little behind on our cleaning as a result. But we had our meat slicing machines already coated with sanitizer after working for 15 minutes to get all the little meat chunks and shavings out of every corner, as we were pretty serious about making sure those things were clean as can be. It's about 8:55 at this point. We're almost late to leave, and the store we worked for did not like overtime. If you were getting any amount of overtime, you would get chewed out the next day for it, even for a little amount. A woman walks up to the counter and starts looking through the product. As we had a glass case filled with a bunch of types of our lunch meats pre-sliced and ready to go for bagging up. She looks at one and says,
I want this turkey right here, but I'd want it freshly sliced.
I, of course, look to my coworker, and we both can see the 2 slices we have are still covered in the sanitizer we use and are drying, as per the food safety protocol written on the bottle that says to allow 20 to 30 minutes minimum for the sanitizer to dry after application. I tell her, well, ma'am, we can't really do that right now. Our slicers are both being cleaned at the moment as the department is closed in 5 minutes, but I'd be glad to get you something here from our cold case.
So, you're not gonna slice it fresh for me? That's what you're saying?
I replied, that's correct. I apologize. Without another word, she walks away, and myself and my coworker go back to what we were doing, and we finish cleaning and go home after about 5 more minutes, narrowly clocking out on time. Fast forward 2 days later. Me and the same coworker come in and start getting to work like a normal day. About 3 p.m., 2 hours into my shift, I personally get called into the head honcho's office, the store director as they're titled. I think nothing of it and head on upstairs and go inside the office and sit down. The store director hands me a piece of paper and says, "Tell me what caused this." I look at the paper and it's a printed out screenshot of a Google review for our store. 1 star out of 5, and a full paragraph from that lady of 2 nights before complaining that she didn't get her freshly sliced meat from the rude employee, and then described specifically me. I explained exactly what happened 2 nights prior, as clearly as I'm typing it out here. The director is getting heated and begins to cut me off while I'm speaking, asking, "Why would slicers be covered in sanitizer at 8:55? You're scheduled to work until 9 p.m. I said, yes, I am. But seeing as I'm constantly being reminded not to get any overtime, so I usually start cleaning them around 8:30 p.m. The director gets even more upset and raises her voice.
I don't care. That's not how it works. If you have a customer, you serve them, and you'd better start making sure those shelves are filled before you leave, or you won't be working here anymore. Now get out.
I'm pretty salty at this point. I go back down to the department and my coworker asks what happened, and I told him. He says, so they want everything done before we leave? I said, yup, and without another word, he knew what we needed to do. 9 p.m. hits as usual, and our shelves are at the usual standard of half full, but seeing as we've been given a new standard, we decided to stay and make sure that we did what I was instructed to do. We spent next several hours past closing time slicing and slicing and slicing until every single tray of meat and cheese was full. We had plastic totes in the big fridge full of cheese that we sliced that were wrapped up in half-pound blocks for ease of sale. So we decided to fill that tub over the brim with every single type of cheese we had available. We cut up around 70 pounds of cheese and wrapped it up in the fridge. We also had a Subway-style sandwich counter where we made sandwiches to go and also pre-made on the shelves for sale. We made double the usual amount of sandwiches and filled the shelves as per requested. Not a single shelf had a single empty spot on it by the time we were done. After every single possible item and shelf was as full as it could be, we finally started to clean and close. It was around 3 a.m. when we finally left. The department opens at 5 a.m. We were exhausted, but our spiteful overtime venture made us feel pretty good. We got about 6 hours of overtime in. They hated anyone getting even 5 to 10 minutes of overtime. We both came in the next day at 1 p.m. as usual, expecting complete retaliation. But nope. Instead, our department manager of the deli kind of saunters over to us and says, hey, you should be good to start cleaning up at 8:30 like usual. I think she, the director, got the point you made. Normally, overtime would be asked to be taken care of by clocking out for lunches or coming in later than usual, but they let us keep all 6 hours of that overtime. They never said anything to us about overtime again after that. I accepted a job that paid almost double about 6 months after this incident and never ever went back to retail nightmare. You're replaceable. Okay, bye. I worked for a company for just under 5 years. The company I worked for existed for an additional 10 years prior to me. While I worked at this company, it ballooned to be the #1 provider in the region for its unique service with about 75% of the market. It was a small business of about 15 employees. I loved my jobs, and the skills I learned while working there were quite valuable. I loved my team and the clients we provided services for. My twice-yearly reviews with the owner were always 10 out of 10 with no recommendations for improvement. I was exceptional at my job in every way. I handled company operations, HR and payroll, customer service, marketing, employee management, schedules, employee and client training, and many other things at this company. I was also able to step in and do any of my teammates' jobs if they were out sick or on vacation. The owner of the company was giving out a bonus late summer last year, and mine, while being more than previous years, was notably less than my teammates. I asked owner, are the bonuses related to performance? And if so, what could I have done to earn more? Owner replied, the bonuses are not performance related. You were just more replaceable than the others. Oh, okay, I replied, and I proceeded to process each one of the bonuses, then went to lunch. I called my spouse to gain wisdom and advice. I was pretty lit, but didn't want to make a rash decision. My spouse is very intelligent, and while they are not a fortune teller, they have an ability to foresee various responses and all the potential outcomes. They are business-wise and have been on the executive team of a large company for the past 21 years, while also serving on several community boards and business advisory boards. We decided together to continue forward with our scheduled vacation and use the time away to calm our minds, relax, have fun, and to also determine the best course of action for me. We were leaving after working one more day, so I worked like all was normal the rest of the day, and the following day, then left on vacation. While away, we discussed several scenarios, the potential outcomes, consulted with a business advisor and a business attorney. With all the advice I received, I determined that upon my return from vacation, I would resign from my role with a 2-week notice. However, in a fit of rage, I was immediately terminated by the owner, which was one of the scenarios we thought would happen. so I was prepared for owner's poor reaction. During the next couple weeks, I created and opened a competing business offering similar services. However, I offered more customizable options with higher quality service and results. I knew our clients wanted these options and had proposed said options several times at old workplace, but was never greenlighted to implement the changes for no reason other than owner didn't come up with the idea, so it was a stupid idea. I also maintained communications with a few people from my old team. My old team did not relay the day-to-day happenings at my previous workplace, and I never asked about the company. However, they would vent to me on occasion. I would listen without comment. I knew service, quality, and the work environment in general suffered since my departure. Morale went down, and clients were less satisfied. I also read the Google and Facebook reviews for old company. Yikes. Additionally, 2 full-time and 1 part-time persons were hired to fill my role, and a portion of my responsibilities, like HR and payroll, were filled by outside companies. I quickly built up my business, and within 3 months was able to hire several of my old teammates. They were able to jump in on day 1 with minimal training as they were the best employees at my old workplace. The quality of previous workplaces' offerings continued to fall, which sent additional business my way and quickly caused incoming work to be non-existent at old workplace. My old workplace went from being the #1 provider of unique service in the region to nothing in a matter of months. My previous employer is now searching for gainful employment. I know this because over the weekend, owner applied for a position at my spouse's company. Side note, I think my spouse's company should bring my previous employer in for an interview, but when they arrive, surprise, I'm the interviewer, and all I say is, how replaceable am I now? My spouse, rightfully so, has said no. Moral of the story, don't tell your employees that they are replaceable because they might create a competing business that is better than yours while taking your best employees and your clients, which will leave you with no business to sell. Owner's whole retirement plan was to sell business and starting all over by searching for employment under someone else. Looks like your company was replaceable. Not me. I have transitioned in my professional life from entry-level to management and ownership. When I was an entry-level employee just out of school, I always thought it was a mistake for ownership to treat valued employees poorly, but figured I was young, and the older, more seasoned business professionals knew better, so I must be wrong. As I've aged and progressed in business and in my career, one thing I learned is I was right when I was only a year out of school. Yes, costs must be monitored, but there is a difference between being mindful of costs and being cheap with your employees. Value your employees, pay them what they deserve and more, and productivity, client satisfaction, revenue, and profitability will follow from that treatment. You learned this lesson, benefited yourself, and did over your jerk ex-boss in the process. Nice work. Am I the jerk for refusing to walk my daughter down the aisle? I, male 49, have 2 daughters, Marie, who's 27, and Julie, who's 23. For context, Julie is not my biological daughter since I married my current wife when she was only 2, and since her dad was absent, I adopted her as my own, but I love both my daughters the same. This being said, I'm closer to Julie since she has and still lives with us, and we do almost everything together. Instead, Marie is closer to her mom, mainly because her mom got full custody of her and she has never lived with me. Now to the main issue. Julie got engaged about a year ago and immediately asked me to walk her down the aisle. I of course agreed and have actively helped her with the planning of the wedding, which is scheduled to be October of 2022. A couple of weeks ago, Marie asked me to grab some coffee with her and let me know she's currently pregnant and will soon get married. To be honest, this got me off guard since I didn't even know she had a boyfriend. She apparently will have quite a fast wedding since she doesn't want to show too much, meaning her wedding will be in 3 months. She says it'll be a small ceremony and asked me to walk her down the aisle. I felt weird about it since I don't even know her fiance and it's all so sudden, so I asked her to let me think about it. It seemed like this answer surprised her, but she understood. I then went home and let my wife and daughter know, and Julie asked me to please decline since she wanted to be the first to be walked down the aisle, and since she asked first, thinks that I have a stronger commitment to her. I agreed since this is more of an us thing rather than an afterthought like Marie's wedding. I then sent a message to Marie letting her know of my decision with a brief explanation and even offered options like her mom or stepdad to walk with her. I also reassured her that I'd still be with her there and support her with anything. She almost immediately called me, crying and telling me how much of a horrible father I am and how I apparently have always played favorite, which hurt me since it's simply not true. I love them both. I tried to explain my reasoning, but she has said it doesn't matter and doesn't care about my excuses. She ended up hanging up, and my ex has been sending me tons of texts berating me and calling me names. Now, word has spread to some family members, and they are calling me a deadbeat and trash. But my wife and daughter agree that my decision is the only fair one and shouldn't be pressured into doing something I don't want. I'm starting to feel guilty, but I'm honestly unsure. Am I the jerk for refusing to walk my daughter down the aisle? You're the jerk. You should be walking them both down the aisle instead of just picking one over the other. Julie wanting to be the first one to be walked down the aisle is frankly a ridiculous request, and if you explain that as your reasoning to your daughter, no wonder she was crying on the phone. What the heck? If Marie had happened to get married first a few years ago, would Julie be bugging OP now and refusing to let him walk her down the aisle because Marie already got to do it? Like, the whole firsties thing makes zero sense. It sounds like Julie resents that Marie is OP's biological daughter and just wants to have one over on her, having their dad walk her down the aisle. And it sounds like OP is like, dope, sounds great, Julie. Yeah, Julie is insecure about Marie being OP's biological kid and wants to ensure that she's OP's only actual kid with respect to their relationship. So no sharing anything with Marie. Everything Julie wants from OP needs to be Julie's alone. And they, Julie and OP's wife, claim they're just respecting what OP wants to do, when they're the ones who told him to make the choice in the first place. I bet it's not the first time something like this has happened. Absolutely, you're the jerk. Yeah, you're the jerk here big time. You're refusing to walk your daughter down the aisle because your other daughter wanted to be first? That's super selfish. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or one of his daughters? Please let us know. You're wrong for doing her like that, bruh. Am I the jerk for telling mother-in-law that while I cannot break HIPAA, I can dictate how much she sees her future grandkids? I'm an ER nurse. I also have a terrible relationship with my mother-in-law. She came into the ER on Valentine's Day, and I went into the room and she immediately demanded a new nurse. To be fair, I was about to suggest she get a different nurse because in general we don't work with family, but she was super rude about it and said I was incompetent. The real issue is, mother-in-law was with a date. This man is a family friend. He was actually father-in-law, her very, very recent ex-husband's best friend for 20 plus years. My husband despises this man and would have a strong reaction to knowing that she's dating him. Mother-in-law's dad had a business falling out with him and there were multiple lawsuits. His kids don't like mother-in-law. So to say people would flip their crap if they found out that they were dating is an understatement. I absolutely can't tell anyone due to HIPAA. I can't even mention to my husband that I saw her and it's stressing me out so badly. Mother-in-law reminded me of HIPAA at the hospital and I reassured her that I would never risk my career like that. Mother-in-law laughed and said she knew it was going to drive me crazy and she was loving it. This morning she texted me that she was just reminding me that she knows her legal rights and she will destroy my life if I tell anyone. I wrote back again that I won't tell. I asked if she was ever going to tell her son, and she wrote back, laughing out loud, maybe if we get married. I told her she was a jerk mom, and she said that she hardly ever sees him since he married such a jerk, so it is a non-issue. At that point, I felt like she was goading me, because she must know that it drives me crazy to not be able to tell him. I wrote back that I cannot break HIPAA as she is clearly aware, but I can dictate how much time she spends with future grandkids. So maybe she shouldn't be calling me names, and just wrote she should fess up to her son. Mother-in-law wrote back that she has no intentions of having a relationship with my kids, but then said the fact I said that shows what type of person I am. And since I'm a trash person, she doesn't even want to meet my future kids. I don't know if I went too far with what I said. You need to go to your HR and let them know what's going on. Tell them your mother-in-law came in with a date and is now threatening you with HIPAA, even though you have done nothing and told no one that you have no intentions to. This needs to be on record in case she decides to mess with you more. You could maybe even screenshot and print out where she is threatening you with it. As a nurse, I agree with this 100%. Cover yourself with a paper trail. Don't let her decide that she has a weapon at a future date. And once you have a proper paper trail going, when she keeps harassing you, you will be able to turn it back against her. Blackmail is a felony, and this is blackmail. I don't think this qualifies as blackmail. Telling someone, if you break the law, I'll make sure you pay for it, doesn't strike me as blackmailing someone. However, it could be considered as harassment if she continues sending her messages and reminding her how much she enjoys her suffering. Not the jerk, but is it a violation still if she's texting you about it on a private number outside of the hospital and threatening your career? Does your hospital have a lawyer on staff? Because you may want to talk to them. And is it a violation if your husband happens to read the messages on your privately owned phone and figures it out? It would be pretty amazing if mother-in-law incriminated herself over text, especially if OP just said really bland and non-incriminating stuff back. Married couples are in each other's phones all the time. Okay, I'm not a lawyer, but I do know a bit about HIPAA, and OP should be super careful about what she's texting back to mother-in-law, especially since mother-in-law is clearly out for blood. She probably should not be having any sort of text conversation about anything that happened in the hospital with a patient.
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.